Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes or on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. For many, it'll be welcome back now. For some, they wouldn't have a clue what's happened in the last 15 minutes. Costa's just popped up. Blame Costa. He's the reason why this happens. He demands me to do the intro, then he goes and turn up, and then we got a mayor like this. Thank you so much for rejoining us, everyone.
He's the reason. Your stream's gone south this season.
It's an absolute shocker. Thank you so much for joining us. We are back here on Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much. We are here bringing you a transfer deadline day special. It will be a bit of a review. Yet we somehow managed to put the last YouTube on the kids version, which, again, I will take full responsibility for. None of these adults that are on the screen here. Oh, scream here? I could be screaming later. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get straight into this one. Like I say, we'll be covering all elements of this transfer window as we await, of course, Pedro Porro being announced as a Spurs player. But I'm going to be really, really annoying. We've got to go through all this all again. So, John Macker, let's firstly, let me just introduce the panel tonight. We're joined by the wonderful Matty Hayes, Richard Cracknell, the superb Lee McQueen, the brilliant Jason McGovern, absolutely despises the transfer window, but is here to close it firmly shut at 11 o'clock for you. And the brilliant Anthony Costa back with us here on Last Word on Spurs. Far, far too long for Anne. Macker, let's get you opening up this show. I've just realised, me and Costa are matching here. What's going on here? Good taste, son.
You get dressed
Macker,
together.
Wait, that's after hours. That's all on.
I love to go home and change. What are you wearing tonight, Anne? Oh, I'll wear the same, Ricky. You watching Love Island tonight, Anne? Yes, Rick.
Mate, he's the only one I could find.
I'm the only sucker that takes the calls.
I was trying to be Ricky tonight, but I ain't got the quiff.
Oh, mate, don't worry. This is going in a couple of weeks once the new one's in.
Tracksuit friends. Oh, friends.
I'm trying to keep this show professional, and you are doing the kids version. Macca, let's start with you. As we stand at the moment, it's a case for Spurs 2 coming in, 1 already here, 1 on their way, 5 out. How would you sum up, if you can, Macca, the overall window in your opinion?
Yeah, well, sorry, everybody, viewers and listeners, as well. We had massive technical issues, and now I'm on a handheld milk like Rick. I'm trying to be Rick. He's got the same as Costa on his, and I'm trying to be his mic as well. It's like, oh, what's going on tonight? Look, I think Danjuma is good in terms of coming in against Hill, like Jason said earlier, against Hill and and Lucas Moore being injured, and I think Pedro Porro, if we ever get the bloke over the line, is a game changer. And look, we definitely need more, but we're always going to need more. We're always going to need more. Regardless if we go and sign Messi, in the summer, we'll still need more. So I think that if the window slams shut tonight, and we don't get any more in, let's be honest, there's 2 hours and 22 minutes left, right? So we ain't going to get any more players in. If we sign Porro, he was the number one signing. Conte wanted him, the fans wanted him. We need him. We're all screaming out for a proper right wing back, and that's what he is. So let's see. But like I said before, and I say again, this time last year we had Bentancur and Kulusevski, Juventus rejects. Right on the last day of the window, what are we doing? What are we doing? And they were game changers. They got us into the top 4. He is the reason, as you know. So let's see. But look, I'll caveat all of that by saying, oh yeah, nice one. Sorry for the listeners there. Dean's put a comment up on here, and he's saying it's off, and I'm starting to have a panic attack here. Jesus, don't do that to us, Dean. But no, I think look, at the end of the day, we need more. And the deal's been done, classic Tottenham. But it's a little bit like your partner, isn't it? Right? You live with your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever it might be, for a long period of time. And regardless of how many times you tell her or tell him, they still squeeze the toothpaste at the top of the tube every time. You want them to squeeze it at the bottom, but they don't. They squeeze it at the top. They always leave the toilet seat up, or they always leave the toilet seat down. That's the way it is. You're never going to change them, and that's maybe what it's like with Daniel Levy and this board. They always leave it late, but luckily for us, the transfer has gone over the line, we think.
Yeah, we do. Macca, you're going to hate me for this. I know you've been working on it the last half an hour. We're still getting some tech issues from that mic. You might want to switch on to AirPods.
Nah, off.
We're going to let Naka try and resolve the tech issues. It's been one of those nights here where, quite frankly, we've got about 800 of you watching us here. I'm wondering if we've got this off the ground, quite frankly, at the moment. Jace has come over to you. If I tell
Lee,
Jace at the moment...
I was just going to say, Lee, have you bought that microphone or loaned it?
With this
Is it an
Spurs
option
chancellor,
or
we
an
don't...
obligation, that mic?
Well, if it's anything
Yeah,
that
Lee.
Spurs is...
What toothpaste do you use, Lee? Now
an
I wanna know
obligation.
what toothpaste you use.
It's an obligation, that. All right, okay, mate.
Jace, let's come over to you. Look, I mean, being brutal about it, we're going to quickly go round this and get a review of everybody in terms of the window itself. Spurs at the moment, Jace, they have spent in the region of only 7 million during this window. That's initially up front, I've got to say, in relation to what they're spending as the viewpoint. And obviously there will be, of course, the future fees, as we know, with regards to Danjuma and Pedro Porro. A 2.5 million fee they're paying right now for Danjuma. And an initial, as we understand it, 4.4 million up front for Pedro Porro, which we know is going to end up becoming that fee of the release clause in around 39.7 million once, obviously, that's all added and accumulated. So just based on that spending alone, Jace, give me your thoughts over whether you do consider this window to be a success once Porro does eventually sign that dotted line.
Well, the spending is irrelevant to me. We've got two players. You know, I look at it and think we've let 3 players or a couple of players go out that we weren't using in Hill and Spence. We've got Porro in that we genuinely wanted. We've not, you know, Lucas Moura's leaving, hasn't played all season. So you've got Danjuma coming in to take over the bits and pieces role, if you like, the Stephen Bergwijn role. Is our squad better than it was at the start of the window? A fraction. It's not the window we wanted. We don't have the centre half. But when I look at it, you know, where I struggle with the transfer window is fans constantly, I hear this thing, Tottenham don't have a plan. We just don't have a plan for the window. Yet there's plenty of supporters would just go and buy any centre half today, when they constantly then criticise the club for buying players that aren't good enough and second and third and fourth and cheap options. Yet that's what some people want us to do today. It's like it's deadline day. You have to go and buy someone. You absolutely have to. Doesn't matter whether you want them. Doesn't matter if they're any good. Just go and buy. It's like supermarket sweep day, isn't it? I mean, I've got 17 tins of baked beans in the thing, so I need 2 pot noodles to go with them. It's crazy at times. I think we've got, you know, we all wanted a centre half. There's no question of that. We wanted a centre half. But if you ask yourself, what are the centre halves we want? And, you know, everyone talks about Guardiola. We won't have a chance of getting Guardiola. But if you want your Bastoni, if you want here, who's the Bayern boy, Hincapié, those players are still at their clubs to be able to be got. You know, it's not like we've lost out on these deals completely. And when I look at the clubs around us, as I said earlier, Newcastle have signed Anthony Gordon. All that Saudi money Newcastle have got, they're in the top 4. They're in a cup final tonight. And the best they could do was get Anthony Gordon. And there is not a single Tottenham supporter would have been happy to have signed Anthony Gordon in this window. The clubs immediately behind us, Fulham and Brighton, they haven't strengthened in this window. Liverpool have signed Gakpo, but they've got horrendous injury problems. They've got Van Dijk's out. Have Liverpool made a panic buy to buy a centre-half to cover Van Dijk? No, they haven't. The only one that's going lunatics at the moment are Chelsea. And the other problem that you do have, and why people are saying, why has Gill gone out on loan? Why are we loaning Spence out? Because you can only register a certain number of players. So, you know, Arsenal have lost El Neni for a long time. They've got rid of Lokonga to bring Jorginho in. Man United may not register Eriksen for the rest of the season, so they can bring Sabitzer in because Eriksen's season's pretty much over. So, you know, Tottenham are against that. You can only make 3 changes to your Champions League squad. So if Tottenham have gone out today and also signed a goalkeeper and a centre-half, one of them can't be registered for the Champions League. And then we'd be sitting there saying, why are we playing a Champions League game where we can't get players on the bench, having to have a bench of 5 subs instead of 9 or whatever? So, you know, you have to work within the remit of registrations. Really, really top clubs. The clubs that we think we want to be buying from, the Inters and that, they're all chasing European places, Champions League places. They're still in the Champions League, some of them. So they are not going to let their best players go. And when I look at the transfer window, what real top players around the world that Tottenham would want have gone in this window anywhere? You just don't do it. Bastoni's still there. Chelsea are spending like mad, but they still haven't got Guardiola, have they? And they still haven't got a number 9. You know, Aussie men still at Napoli, because Napoli are not going to sell Aussie men in this window to anyone. So you've got to allow for those things. And if the fans want grade A elite players, then you're not going to get them in January. And we constantly say, don't get the cheap option. And then the manager saying, well, we wanted Bastoni and we settled for Connor Cody. Yeah, Connor Cody may be better than Eric Dyer, but if he's not the one the manager wants, what's the bloody point in signing him?
You know, I mean, let's come around to you, Anne. I mean, I've been quite honest with you in vocal, as I always am when we speak. And I always have said for me that in relation to Spurs in a window, I feel we're a couple of signings behind where we need to be. You know, for me, we're never really where we should be. And as a club, this window for me, look, Porro hopefully will be a decent player. Again, we're going to have to wait and see, because everything should tell you this guy is going to be good based on what we've seen from him. But at the same time, you know, this is a position that arguably should have maybe been addressed in the summer, because clearly he didn't want Jed Spence, because Spence hasn't kicked the ball. He, of course, has gone out on loan, and we're going to cover that during the show. And again, Danjuma, in the most politest way I'm going to try and put this is a player that was brought over by his agent to the UK 2 weeks ago. And as we've said, hadn't heard from any journalists on Last Word On Spurs, was given almost the grand tour of so many clubs over in the UK. Yeah. Everton were the only club, as we saw, that lodged an interest, submitted a bid, and he was on the brink of signing for them, only for then Spurs to hijack that deal in real crazy circumstances. So based on what we've done this window, Anne, is it enough? Is it enough, in your opinion, to keep Spurs?
And can I just quickly say, though, don't forget, Bentancur was only going to go to Aston Villa.
When was that? That was last year.
Last summer. The only club that wanted Bentancur was Aston Villa, and he was hawked around the Premier League.
But is it? And answer me this question: what we've done this window, is it enough, Ant? Is it enough in your opinion?
I get what everyone's saying, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. For me, no. We've been crying out for a centre back, and I know top players, etc. It's hard to get top centre backs, but if we want to compete, and we've got the champion, we've got Champions League, we're in the final, round of 16, last 16. That's my only thing. Like, we don't ever progress. I'm not saying go and spend 300-400 million on players. Just buy players for now, like that Conte wants, because it really tells me, is Conte staying? That's the big issue for me at the moment, right? Because we signed that young lad from Chelsea, we signed X, Y, and Z, right? Porro and Danjuma, but is Conte going to be the manager this time next year? And then we're back to square one. We're back on your show with the boys again, going, oh, right, well, who are we going to sign now? Who's players for this manager? That was a Conte signing. That was a Potts signing. That was an AVB signing with Lloris and stuff. It's progressing. We need to progress. And the fact that we haven't even gone for a centre-back or even tested, just test the water. We're supposed to be a top 4 club. We're in the Champions League.
Yep.
Big club, 9th richest revenue, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm not a money man, but I see what I read. Just go and test them. That's all I wanted. And the whole Porro thing taking 31 days and he's not even announced yet, because it just seems like the fans will be happy with that. Let's hope I'm wrong. Let's hope the boy delivers on Sunday against Man City, because for me, he needs to start straight away. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the lads think, but I don't want to be hearing from Conte going, he's not ready, he needs another 3 months because he might miss his office at home. I'm not interested in that. If you've signed him, now you start him. This is the player you wanted. Let's see what he does under you.
Yeah, Cracks, let's come over to you. Look, I mean, we've been on, and obviously you've been talking about this transfer window a lot during a lot of the post-match shows that we've done here on Last Word On Spurs. And again, I've said that to you throughout consistently this window, that I have always feared that we simply maybe haven't done enough in order to trend and continue our, quest to try and keep Conte happy. And I think this is the thing at the moment. It's depending on where you sit on the manager, because many people will feel that maybe for them, Conte isn't the right man, and therefore maybe they're not massively concerned about strengthening. But if you do care about Antonio Conte and you want him to stay, what you've got to ask yourself is what we've done this window enough to keep Antonio Conte happy? What do you think, Cracks, overall, when you look at the 2 players we've brought in, numerically the players that are going out? You made a massive point last January, as we know, about talking about the numerical difference in terms of those coming in to those going out. Will he be happy, Cracks, with the business that Spurs have done, Danjuma and Pedro Porro?
I mean, that's a question, isn't it, for Conte himself? To be honest, it's look. I take what Jason said, and I sort of echo what Ant has said as well. It's not just this window, Rick, is it? It just seems to be every window. It's a trend, you know. It's not like we've just had a poor window and we're having a moan about it. It's every window. It's that always 2 or 3 short. You know, it's like another couple of players would have pushed us on, and we brought a couple of players in as a couple of really also beginning to need to be changed as well. You know, we're crying out for a centre back, absolutely crying out. We're still playing with Dyer. He was sort of 5, 6, 7, 12 managers ago. Can't remember now. You know, he's honestly, I think we've had more prime ministers than we've had managers with Dyer. It's just like, you know, it's crazy. So that push, I know I get what people say about January, but Odegaard was bought in January. You know, Van Dijk was done in January. There's lots of big players now that get done in January. Phil Smith, the agent, was on with Hawksby and Jacobs this afternoon on TalkSport, and he said this January, summer, or this winter and summer window is no longer a thing. To be honest, you get 2 windows. They're as important as each other. And quite honestly, Rick, I think if you offer the money, you get the player. It's as simple as that. It's a money game now, football. It really is. Yes, of course, there's things within that once you do get the players. You know, Newcastle aren't really that much further advanced with players that they've brought in. They just brought a manager in that wants to play for them. So, you know, within that, you've got things to do. And the Conte issue is an issue. You know, is he staying? Is he going? Are they playing for him? Is everybody happy? But you buy the right quality of player, they play for anyone. There's no manager that wouldn't want Kane, that wouldn't want a Son, that wouldn't want a Romero. And if you buy a decent quality centre back and a decent quality goalkeeper as well, guess what? Any manager that comes in, if it isn't to be Conte, will want to play with them. In fact, you could argue that the players we've bought this window actually suit Conte. They're the types of players that different managers sort of go with or don't go with. Goalkeepers are goalkeepers, and every manager has a goalkeeper. Strikers, central defenders, these are the types of players they're like the bread and butter, aren't they? You know, and like your wings are your sauces, and some like a red sauce, some like a brown sauce. So, you know, it's Porro's a great player, and I'm really pleased we've done that business. Don't get me wrong, but he will play with any type of manager, because otherwise players wouldn't move clubs, would they? If they can't play with a different type of manager. So I don't know. It's two decent signings, but you know, as I said in the previous show that had to go south. I don't know. I just look round and see other clubs getting business done, getting it over the line quickly, just getting stuff done, and we just seem to be like, give you a £5. All right, I'll give you £5.20. Give you £4.80 in a bag of balls. It just seems to be, we just seem to kick bollock and bite over silly piddling amounts now. You know, it's I don't know. It just doesn't seem enough to me, Rick. We're told this has all been a game changer, that the backdrop to the feed here with this stadium, and it's up and running and going. But we seem to get just a couple in, and then a couple go, or a couple need replacing. We never air and a spare. It just seems. So it just doesn't seem enough to me, Rick. Not with the money that we're now generating. It's not enough.
Rich, guys, I just want to put this out there, and obviously Rick answer as well. What if we don't make top 4 this season?
Well, I think again,
and we haven't. Sorry, and we haven't got the targets that we wanted to get that we're looking for in the summer.
Yeah.
We couldn't get them now.
I do generally think the issue is, to bring you in, Matt, that I look at, you know, the team right now, and we're asking to go out in a window to recruit players. And like Crackers has said it there, and we've all said it, we're not quite sure who we're actually recruiting these players for. Is it for Antonio Conte? Is it for somebody else? I mean, Crackers makes the point there that you buy players that can be adaptable to multiple different managers. They're not bought for the one player. And I'm sure someone like Pedro Porro has been bought with a thinking behind, and that he's a young, dynamic player that has got the ability to be flexible, that can play in an alternative formation to what he's playing right now. I mean, Matt,
Rick, even the current structure of the club is that it doesn't matter who the manager is, because we've got a sporting director, and that's what that is.
Well,
they buy the players, and the manager comes in and works with them. So even less so is it that who's important who the manager is, because
you could arguably say, Cracks,
we've got.
You could arguably say as well, Cracks, that the the sporting director's future is just as uncertain as the manager's at the moment, which again is another issue that we have to face up to reality on. Matt, let's bring you in there. Give me your thoughts, Matt, based on what we've done this window, obviously Porro and Danjuma. Does it matter who the manager is in your opinion, or could Spurs have done more if they knew who the manager was definitively going to be at the start of next season?
I think we kind of discussed it on the show last night a little bit. A lot of the business that Tottenham have done in this window seems to be because nobody knows who's going to be at the helm on the 1st of September next season, when the Premier League season really gets underway. Looking at the outgoings with Matt Doherty, Brian Hill, Jed Spence, all going on loan with no options to buy. That tells me they want a proper decision to be made in the summer. Pedro Porro, like we mentioned there, is a very, very adaptable player. I think the kind of general consensus is that if Antonio Conte leaves, Mauricio Pochettino is the most likely man to come back. And Porro fits absolutely fantastically into a Pochettino team. He'd just do what Walker did, hopefully with less defensive errors. But there definitely is a feeling around everything at the club at the moment, that everything is just uncertain, and we can't fully and heavily invest in a huge squad not knowing who our manager is. Now, I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm not saying that's a reason why we shouldn't even try and go out and get the players. Like Anthony said, going out and just testing the water with a few players is more than enough. And I think I said it last night, Ricky, that with the business that we have done with the players that we have got in, I'd rate this window a 7 out of 10 purely based on those deals on their own. But in terms of the overall picture of what we had to do, that gaping hole at centre back is still an issue. And I couldn't have agreed more with what Jason said. You know, it's not easy to go out and get these massive targets in a January window. And I've been saying that all month. Looking at the players that we had targeted, you've Kim Min-jae, who's been a name for a while. Napoli are about to win their first Scudetto in over 30 years. They're not going to let him go. Inter Milan are the team chasing them, trying to catch up and retain their title. They're not going to let Bastoni go. Bayer Leverkusen and for Hincapi and Villarreal for Pau Torres, they're chasing Champions League football. These teams aren't going to let their big players go. So if we wanted to really get this done and we wanted our big signings in, we had to do it last window. However, last window we couldn't do that. And the problem in the past has been that Daniel Levy would have gone, and instead of getting a Bastoni for 60 million or a Vardial for 70, he would have got half the player on a permanent deal, and that would have been that sorted. But we went and we got Longley on a season-long loan, no buy option as a stopgap to actually address that in the next window. So there does seem to be a bit more planning ahead. Definitely not enough. I don't think we're in a position where we can say that this team is going to be exactly what we need in 2, 3, 4 windows time. But there does seem to be a little bit of something creeping in that gives me a little bit of hope. But on what Anthony said there, what if we don't get top 4? Well, if we don't, we're in a really bad position, because the reason that we managed to attract some of the players we've got in the last couple of years is because we had Champions League football, and we had a project going in the right direction where you can see you're coming into a club that is potentially going somewhere. But if we get to that stage in the summer, let's say we finish 5th, 6th, 7th, we're in either the Europa League or the Conference League. Conte leaves, we have another manager coming in. Is that manager going to be backed? How long is it going to be until that manager actually has his squad in place? Top 4 is, for me, pivotal in everything that we're trying to do. And I kind of just would have liked to have seen a centre-back come in. Again, even just someone on loan, even another signing like Clement Longley, just to actually give us a bit more structure and a bit more solidity in trying to push on to that top 4, because if we don't get it, again, who knows? We're in the Europa League. Romero might want to go. Bentancur might want to go. Kulusevski might want to go. A lot of the players we've brought in under Fabio Paratici are Champions League level players. Let's not deny the fact that he has made some absolutely fantastic signings. But these signings, as much as they're loving playing at Spurs now, as much as Kulusevski can come out in every media interview and say he absolutely adores the club, as much as Romero can refuse to say the word Arsenal in an interview, if we go a season or two without Champions League football, that's gone. They have to prioritise their own career. We're in the mud then.
No, you are absolutely spot on. Joe on the screen here just says, so I can share this. He says Porro, Kulusevski, Dan Juma will be signed permanently in the summer, and that's 80% of our summer budget. Simply not acceptable. Game-changing new stadium. Maka, I think at the beginning there we lost you because of the audio. So I just want to give you the opportunity, Maka, just to come in on your point there with regards to the window itself and what you've made of it. I mean, you've heard what a lot of the guys have said there. Maka, you are one of the most positive Spurs fans I know, and especially on Last Word On Spurs, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You tell it as it is. Where we obviously are right now, it looks like 2 coming in, 5 going out. Quite frankly, for you, is that enough for you to be content with to go in the second part of the season when you've got Champions League doubleheader AC Milan, FA Cup, as we know, top 4 battle? Have we done enough, Maka, in your opinion, for this manager for the rest of the season?
I'm not sure you can hear me, can you?
No, we got you, bud. You're fine.
Yeah.
You're all good.
Hey, he is on the mixer. Okay, yeah, fascinating stuff to hear. Yeah, look, I think what I was trying to say earlier when I was popping, the microphone was popping and whatever is, look, Antonio Conte top target was Pedro Porro, by all accounts. The club wanted him, the fans wanted him, and Conte wanted him, and he got him, right? Okay, so that's number one. The second part is that for about 50,000 weeks, every single press conference, I've heard Antonio Conte tell the rest of the world that Brian Hill is not strong enough and physical enough for the Premier League. Like, I don't know how many times I've heard it. I'm sure all of you have heard it. So what we've done, and Lucas Moore's been injured, obviously, most of the season. So what we've done is we've gone out there and got a big, strong forward that is physically like what Conte wants to replace Brian Hill because he's gone back out on loan, right? And people are saying about going back out on loan. He's an asset. Who was moaning about Chelsea having about 4,000 players out on loan? You know, we're not going to sell Brian Hill, are we? Ask crackers. Like, he's quality. So we're going to have him back at some point and either sell him on as an asset or get him back into the side. So I don't have a problem with that. Do we need more? Yes, we do. But again, I think somebody said it in the comments as well. I'm not defending. I'm just telling you facts. This is facts. We, us 6, and all the fans and all the viewers and listeners might think we need 5 centre-backs. We need this. We need that. Conte said literally the other day, I'm all right with my centre-backs. Like, he said it. He said it out of his mouth. So it's up to you if you believe him, but that's what he said. That is exactly what he said in one of his press conferences. So Alistair Gold, friend of the show, you know, top guy, Ali, he said at the beginning of the window, we were after a forward and a right wing back, right? That is what he said. That is what the club was telling him. That's what Conte wanted. And we're sitting there with a forward and a right wing back. So from that perspective, you've got to say I'm with Matty Hayes on this. It's a good window in that respect. My personal opinion is that we need about 50,000 centre-backs, and we haven't addressed that, and that is a problem. And I do agree with all of you lads where you said we're always 1 or 2 short. Always 1 or 2 short, and that is a problem. I do, however, and I know that you're going to shoot me down, but I do, however, disagree with the pessimism about top 4, because we was in this exact situation last year and we got top 4. So for those people in the comments and for those people saying we're never going to get top 4, go back and read the messages that you were writing at this time last year and have a look at where we were. 2 Juventus rejects and we still got top 4. So I think there needs to be a bit of balance on there. But overall, I'd probably rate it a little bit less. I don't know why I'm getting to get carried away with the less ratings. I'd probably rate it a 6 out of 10 because of the 2 positions that we needed from the club's perspective we've got. But we need a centre-back. Look, we might need a goalkeeper. That was never going to happen in January, but we definitely needed a centre-back, which would have really helped the push. Because arguably, I can say about last year's top 4, this top 4, if we're honest, is harder. It's going to be harder this year. Newcastle are up there. You know, Brighton doing fantastic well. They're not far away. Manchester United are pushing on. So I do, and Nate S32 says on the screen, I think top 4 100% still achievable. I totally believe that. But it is harder, probably, than it was last year. So we'll have to see, won't we? We'll have to see, lads.
Yeah. It's going to be a struggle, I think.
Oh, yeah. Can I just say, Jace, we are going to bring... Can I just say, Jace, before you come in there, Jace, we are just going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. I'm worried about sending this because he might go ballistic at me. Maka, we have still got some popping of the AirPods or the mics. I'm not sure it's the Wi-Fi, but I'm just letting you know we can... Sorry,
guys. It's my laptop, to be fair.
Yeah, it's fine. we'll let Makativi sort that out. You might want to switch on the phone or alternative or whatever. But we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. There's over 1,000 of you watching us live. So as always, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. So on the rundown, like I say, the guys have given you there roughly what they've made of the window out of 10. We're going to discuss next Pedro Porro, and we're expecting this announcement to be imminent from Tottenham. We're then going to be talking about Dan Juma and what we expect from him for the season, and then be turning our direction to the outgoings of the football club, and then discussing really what the season expectations are based on the business that we have done. Our aim is to try and be with you till about 10:30, 11 o'clock. The guys will duck in and out of the show because, like I say, it's one of those nights. It's, again, lots going on. A lot of these guys have kids, they've got families, so they'll be ducking in and out as we go. So, like I say, they'll be absolutely feel free to do that. Don't worry, they haven't gone. They might just be ducking in and out. Jace, let's kickstart the second half with you. So Spurs are primed to complete their long-awaited move for Pedro Porro. Now, as we understand it, that deal will include an obligation to buy and is expected to be worth 45 million. That's euros, and equating to pounds, 39.7 million. I must just add, as I said at the top of this show, we understand that Spurs are actually initially paying up front a 4.4 million loan fee for the player. So, I mean, the overall, Jace, you said it's important to bring him in. He's one of Conte's key targets for the window. Do you think Jace will make that instant impact that we all need him to?
Can I just answer one thing before when we talked about
Please.
being 2 players short?
Please.
I work today. I mean, most of us probably have worked in places where we've got a Liverpool fan, a Man United fan, an Arsenal fan, a Chelsea fan. I've got the Arsenal fan at work moaning that they've signed Jorginho because, you know, El Neni's out and we needed this and we needed that. We still haven't. If Saliba gets injured, we've got Rob Holding. He's not good enough for the level we want to be at. I've got Liverpool fans moaning today. We've got no midfield players. What was the point of bringing in Gakpo and Nunes? Neither of them score goals. I've got Man United fans today moaning that the only 2 deals they've done is 2 loans, and they've still got Phil Jones, Harry Maguire, and Lindelof as backups. You know, I've got a Chelsea fan that, having spent 600 million, is still moaning they don't have a number 9. So, you know, it just shows you nobody's ever happy at the everyone is always 2 players short at the end of the transfer window of what fans want. That's the nature of the beast. And if we'd have signed a left-sided centre back, we'd be saying, to replace Davis or Longley, we'd still be saying, but we still need cover for Dyer, and we still need one for Hugo, and we still need one here. That's how transfer windows are. You will never get everything you want. But on Porro, I think, you know, the frustration with the Porro deal is that it's dragged on so long. None of us can understand really why it's taken so long, why this deal that, you know, you had the whole World Cup, let's be honest, you had a World Cup to sort the deal out as well as the January window. So there was no excuse why, and here we are at 10 past 9 at night and it's still not confirmed. I think that's just nuts, isn't it? And the to-ing and throwing over what to us seems ridiculous clauses like administration clauses and things like that. Just get the deal done. And we should have had him in for the Arsenal game, and he should have been
City
here
game.
for
And
the
the
Manchester
City
City
game.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He
Yeah,
should have
that
done. Although
is my
Emerson Royal
frustration.
scored at Man City, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean,
And he was man of the match at Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, coming over to you, Anne, that's probably my biggest frustration. That if Porro was the key player identified months ago, when those reports started in December, you go and get your players. You've got them on the 1st of January, ready for the big month we've got in store. City and Arsenal, arguably the 2 biggest games of the season, where Spurs subsequently go and lose them both. And again, it's 6 points that maybe arguably Spurs might not have had Porro even played. But I tell you what, a bloody good, better chance if Porro was here. So, given the nature of the deal, it was backwards and forwards. On Monday, as Jason referred to there, we had one point in which it was completely off. Then they were making gradual progress once again. It came back on. I mean, it's been a chaotic move, this has. And like I say, we're still here now. And as we record this at 10 past 9 in the evening.
I know. I'm just drained by it all. Rick, I'm drained by it, brother. I love you and the boys to death. I'm just drained. I'm bored of it.
Do you think, Ant, for you though, will he hit the ground running? We're talking about a player that hasn't played in the Premier League.
So.
Have you got any reservations at all? Any reservations?
He's got no choice, Rick. He's got to hit the ground running. As I said when we started talking, I'm not interested in we need to settle. No. You only played on Saturday, so you can play on Sunday, mate, against Man City. I ain't bothered. I want to see you at White Hart Lane on Sunday playing against Man City. Don't hear excuses, okay? You've got to start somewhere. So throw him in the deep end against his old club, Man City. Am I disappointed? Well, yeah, because it's just taken so long. Would I have liked him against Arsenal and Man City? We all would, because you just never know what ifs and buts and maybes. But listen, it's the 1st of February tomorrow. We've got Man City on Sunday, and we've got to kick on from our season now. It really has. We've got a lot of games now with Champions League coming up. And, you know, look, I want to listen. I want to believe we can finish in the top 4. Of course I do. You don't think I want us to be in the Champions League? But what's the point of being in the Champions League if you're never going to progress and buy these players to get you again in the Champions League and go and challenge? Because it ain't worth it. This is why I say to you, Rick, it pains me to say it. I'd rather not have Champions League and go all out for the FA Cup. I really, really would, because we never. No, but it's true though, Chase. Because we never. You don't win a trophy for 4th. At least go for the FA Cup this year. I'm so annoyed, and I think the fact that them lot down the road on top of the league is making me even more paid off.
100%, and I mean I think that is the biggest factor.
Everything, mate. It's heightened everything because we were there. We were them 2-3 seasons ago, so to speak. Yeah, challenging Champions League final X, Y, and Z, and now we've regressed. This is what I'm trying to say. You don't think I want to see my club against the best teams? Of course I do. But if you're never going to progress and buy the players that the manager wants, whether it's Conte, Poch, John Smith, Dave Bennett, whoever, then what's the point? I know we all laugh, but I'm just talking from now. I'm not talking from now. I'm talking from now. And I think that overrules that a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Anne. I mean, but look, again, I think that is a built-up of frustration where we've waited 31 days to sign the player, and here we are, still at nearly 9:30, and we have still not announced the player. It is baffling. I mean, it is quite baffling. I mean, the nature of this deal has been somewhat of a struggle. We've got to say, cracks come over to Euler, and we have heard from Porro at the airport last night, who said he's grateful to Sporting, he loves the club. He didn't train yesterday because his only focus was on a transfer to Tottenham, and he'll always be thankful to the club. I mean, bless him, he sounds really desperate to get here. So do you think he knows what this club is or what it's like?
He was 28 hours on a flight, wasn't he? According to some outlets, he was in the air, and sponsored by an airline. The tweet was sponsored, and he was in the air. I mean, 28 hours. He's failing that medical, Rick. He's going to have deep vein thrombosis, isn't he? 28 hours to fly from Lisbon, London. He was in the Zeppelin, wasn't he? He was in the Zeppelin. Like, how does it take that long to fly here? I mean, it's just I don't know. And that's where Jason and I agree. Sometimes we don't agree, but me and Ant are seeing the window very differently to Matt and Lee and Jason. Although, don't forget, Rick, we are all paid to take certain positions on this show, as you know.
I've briefed you all beforehand about who is leaving in, who's leaving out, who's
4 p.m. when you sent our scripts over, and that check that came through. Do you remember that was Thanks, Rick. I'll bank that. Oh, sorry. Are we live? Can we go again? Oh,
what, on the Made on Kids version, or which version are we talking about?
Yeah.
Can we go back to reviewing Pacos de Ferreira, please? Can we just go back to
the version? What, the glory days of Nuno? I'll make you proud again. I'll make you so proud.
But yeah, he's listen, he's coming. He's a quality player, isn't he? He really is. He does improve us. If he lives up to his billing and what he's done in Lisbon, there is this still square pegs in round holes, etc., etc. And if he settles and everything goes well, he is a quality addition. Nuno counter number 1 now mentions a Nuno who's won a trophy, by the way. There's a trophy for Spurs. The amount of people that seem to leave and win a trophy. There's a trophy. We win that trophy, don't we? The amount of people that leave it, honestly. But no, he is a quality signing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And he improves that position. But to carry on the rant and that with what's going on generally, I mean, it's 20 odd seasons now where we always just seem to be that one or two short under these current owners. Little to no success at all. And that's what people are frustrated about. I take what you say, Matt, I'm totally on board, where we're loaning players and then we can get to have a look rather than dropping these millions on them and they end up being duds. Hello and Dembele. But at the same time, people have a right to be angry because they're dropping £2,500 on a season ticket every year. And at the moment, every pound's a prisoner in people's finances, you know, and they're handing £2,500 of their hard-earned over, only to really see this yet again jam tomorrow. So you've got to understand where the anger comes from with people. So, you know, lots of people can be a little bit more subjective about it. Okay, I can see what we're building to, but that just doesn't stop people being annoyed that, hang on, I've given you another £2,000 this season for my season ticket and you haven't repaid that by bringing in the players that the highest prices in world football should really give me back for my money that I've paid. So, you know, I can see both sides of it, but people's anger is justified because it's a lot of money and it's always jammed tomorrow. And that's something that the club and everybody has to respect, really.
Matt, I'm going to turn the attention back to Pedro Porro if I can. When you look at his stats overall for this season, actually in his actual career at Sporting, 96 games, 12 goals, 20 assists. He's got a league title to his name. We'll sort that out for him. The Taca de Liga, he's won twice. Super Taca, he's won that once. Team of the Year, he's been in that twice. Do you think he knows what he's getting himself into here, Matt? I mean, this is a player that, you know, on paper looks like a really... I mean, this is what I will say, actually, to the club. And this, again, I will give him a bit of credit here. This is arguably probably the best right wing back that they probably could have got in Europe, and they have got him, as we think we've got him. We're waiting for his announcement here. Do you think, Matt, based on what he's achieved so far at Sporting, do you expect him to hit the ground running, Matt? Different division, different league, different country?
Well, look, I mean, he knows the English game to some extent, given the time he spent at Manchester City. So it's not like an Emerson Royale or someone who's never played the country, never lived in the country before. You know, he will know it to some extent, but it's a new team that he's coming into, and I tell you what, there's no way he watched Spurs with the way he was smiling at that airport last night. There's no way he's ever watched us kick a football, because that smile would not have been there if he had. But look, he's a player that just has immense raw talent. And I think that's something that's adaptable and transferable to almost anywhere you go. He's got incredible pace. He's so good at taking on a man. His crossing is absolutely exquisite. And aside from the kind of base, the normal stats of the goals and the assists, I mean, he's in the top percentile of European football for so many different attacking stats, for shots, for crosses, for pass accuracy, for so many different things, which is exactly what we have been lacking out on that right-hand side ever since Kyle Walker left. No, Kieran Trippier deputised rather effectively for a while and was a good kind of stopgap after Walker left. But we've been crying out for something exactly like Pedro Porro out on that right-hand side for so long. And it's a relief that we are finally getting it. Now, again, like you said, we're an hour and a half to go to the deadline and we haven't seen that announcement yet. So for Spurs fans, the nerves are starting to creep in. But it's a really, really good signing. And it's one that I think one of the most important things is that it will appease Antonio Conte. Again, like we kind of mentioned last night, I don't think his future is going to come down purely to footballing decisions. There's, of course, a lot going on in his personal life that I think will weigh heavily on him when he tries to make that decision. But this is a deal that wasn't easy for Spurs to do, and I think Antonio Conte will appreciate that. Now, for me, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have any communication from the club right now. For me, as soon as Pedro Porro signed that contract, put out a statement, just a nice basic statement. We've had this agreed, more details to come, and then do your big fantastic media work after that. But up until this point, Sporting have made it extremely difficult for Spurs. And I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm not saying Daniel Levy is the best chairman in the world. I feel like anytime you say something almost balanced, that you kind of do have to preface with that. But I think Daniel Levy has done well to get this done, because Sporting did not want to sell. They were doing everything in their power to keep the player. You know, similarly to the other teams are mentioned, Sporting They are in a title race. They're looking to win trophies. They, of course, had that cup final at the weekend that they lost to Porto. They wanted Pedro Porro to play in those couple of games. The negotiations were all over the place because there was an agency, an intermediary that was doing it because they represent Porro and Spurs have a good relationship there.
Yeah.
There's so many complexities and complications and all that. So I can understand to some extent why this deal might have dragged on, but the be all and end all is it's got done. It's got over the line. And the effect that player is going to have on our team, for me, is going to be huge. And he's going to fit right in there. He has to start on Sunday against Manchester City. I know, like Jason mentioned, Emerson Royal scored against Manchester City, but let's be honest, that's not going to happen again. Porro just needs to start that game. And even if Conte isn't entirely convinced that he's ready for that game, just the feeling and the positivity and the energy that will bring to the Tottenham fan base.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
We've brought in Emerson, we've brought in Jed Spence, we've brought in Matt Doherty, we've brought in any player we could find who had a double barrel name finishing at Peters. We brought every single one of them in to try and replace Kyle Walker. And it
bloody smart as well.
Yeah,
you're right, Matt.
It just hasn't worked. So what we need is to see that we actually have something sorted there. And the excitement that Porro will bring, it's his debut. He's going to be on the ball. He's going to be energetic. He's going to be fighting for things. The excitement that we get from that, for me, is reason enough to actually put him in that team and then hope that we can have a bit of a platform there to really push on and fight for what we need in the rest of the season. Like Anthony said, win the FA Cup. Don't put out a weak team, whether it's Wrexham or Sheffield United. Start Harry Kane, start Heung-min Son, start Porro, Romero, Bentancur. It's been too long. It's been 15 years since we won a trophy. Yeah, I know some foreign managers coming into the Premier League, they don't really value the domestic cups as much as English managers do, because it's more of an English tradition and not one that's always carried around other parts of Europe. Just win a trophy. Just do that. That in itself, what that will do for the club and what that will do for the squad is more than we can even imagine. And I just think Porro will be a very, very good man to help us do that.
Yeah, Macca, let's bring him in. I think he's a player you've been very keen to see Spurs get over the line. I mean, arguably, look, we're 31 days in. It will happen. We reliably are being told it will happen tonight. There will be some form of announcement. Macca, his stats for this season, 23 games played, assists 11, 3 goals, 2.6 shots per game, 2.4 key passes. I'm trying to find out more so I can wind Costa up. I know he loves a stat. Macca, overall,
XG.
I haven't got his XG here, but how happy are you, Macca, that we have got this one over the line? And will he make an immediate impact? Because you joined Last Word on Spurs at a time where you said to me, Rick, I don't think we can replace Kyle Walker. And here we are, 5 years later, Macca, and we're still trying to find that Kyle Walker replacement. So is this the man, Macca, from 6 years ago that you told me we would find it really hard to replace?
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully I'm not popping. Sorry, I've got tech issues. If I am, then you just have to bang me off or,
That's fine.
Yeah,
don't be silly, mate.
put up with it. Look, I've don't bang me off. I can't believe. I think it was Matty. I think you put it out on Twitter. If it's not, then forgive me. But somebody posted something in the week about the amount of right backs that we've had or tried to have since Kyle Walker and how much money we've spent on them. And it's just incredible. Like, you look at the Serge Aurier situation, the Kieran Trippier situation, Emerson Royal situation, Matt Doherty situation. So hopefully he is that. I mean, I've just kind of sketched out a team here, and although we are frustrated, about the centre back situation and potentially, sorry about that, potentially the goalkeeper situation as well. Arguably now, Antonio Conte, he wouldn't take out Son or Kane, would he? At the end of the day, he wouldn't take out Son and Kane. He's got Kulusevski, which I think everyone knows is absolutely brilliant. There's your front three. And he's got his man, a £60 million man, Richarlison, that's in the backup there. And he's now got a guy called Danjuma, who scores when he wants by all accounts. No, but, that he wanted in replace of Hill. So you look at that front line now, and you've got Lucas still hanging around if he gets back, and he's got a bit of, about him in certain games. Got some experience, let's put it that way. You look across the midfield, and you've got your left wing back of choice in terms of Ivan Perisic. He's got him, and he's got his right wing back of choice in terms of Pedro Porro. He's got him as well. And Bentancur's been a revelation. Højbjerg, for me, I think he's still brilliant. Go back to what Cracker said about him before about Dustman. But he's an easy target when the team don't play very well. He gives the ball away sometimes in stupid positions, but then he does what he does against Marseille and wins us the game and puts us through top of the group. So And they've got Højbjerg in there, and then you've got Basuma, who, you know, let's be honest, we signed in the summer 30 million, 35 million quid. Everyone thought he was going to be banging Basuma, and he's been awful. Right, let's have it right. He's been awful. So, you know, he's like a new signing almost. If he can start to get rocking and rolling, and then Romero.
Is he awful though, Lee? Is he awful, or is he just had his wings clipped by the manager? Because I think that's what it is with some of them.
Well, I mean,
I don't think he's awful. I think he's had his wings clipped. I don't think he's allowed to free roam like Sonny. I think them two have absolutely had their wings clipped by Conte.
Okay, so wings clipped wings clipped or being awful. The fact is, they ain't played anywhere near where they have been playing. And then you look at Romero, World Cup winner, happy days. But the glaring obvious situation there is coming back to what we said earlier, which is centre backs and Lloris, if you want to go down that route as well. But let's be honest, right? I think we're a bit deluded if we think we can go and get a replacement for Lloris in 4 weeks in a window when we wasn't really planning to get one. I think that would have been a panic buy, to be fair. But the centre backs wouldn't have been, and that's the issue. But when everybody's fit, and it proved last season that Davis can get to a certain level. I put Longley in here, by the way, but Dyer can get to a certain level. They've got to step up because there's no choice now. They've got to step up. But most of them players now are Antonio Conte choice players, which is a very different thing to what we had been starting before with 8 or 9 Poch players still playing.
It's an I mean, I say, Mac, and I think there's lots that are agreeing with you there in the comments in relation to what we're doing, what we have tried to do. I mean, I don't know, come around to you. Go on, and do you want to come back?
No, I agree with. I completely get what Lee's saying, and absolutely spot on. But wouldn't it be nice if we were sitting here today or tomorrow about to preview the Man City game? We've played with a couple more centre backs, and we're sitting here today going, I wonder if he's going to play a 4. What about a 3 at the back? And he can play there and he can play there. Okay, we haven't got that, but wouldn't it be nice to be in that situation, lads? That's all I'm saying. I just want to throw it out there. What do you think?
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's got to be some more adaptability and flexibility with that side for sure. I mean, he's got to show that in these next few weeks. I think, again, the Porro signing will enable him, hopefully, you'd think, to be able to play this exact formation he wants. And what I will pick on what Lee said there, and I think he's spot on, is that, arguably, Perisic, even for his age, is still one of the best wing backs in the world. People might laugh at that. Yes, pace-wise, he hasn't got it, but if you look at his assists so far, I think it's 11 overall. So you can't knock him in terms of the assists. I mean, a lot of them have been from dead ball situations. And Porro, when you look at his record this season, 11 assists, 23 games. Go on, okay, yeah.
Sorry, just quickly on that, because, looking at that, I think what Porro does for the team, forget transfer only for a minute, I think what Porro does for the first 11 is because of his attacking prowess, he enables Kulusevski to move into a different type of role. Conte will look at them as inside 10s. When you look at Sonny the other day, and I think Frank made the point on our WhatsApp group the other day, which I thought was quite a good point. When you look at Sonny coming inside, when Kane weren't there, he's coming inside. He's got that space to operate in where Kane is normally dropping a little bit deeper, and he pings one in from his, from as a world-class finish. I know it was against Preston, but it's brilliant. And I listened to the show on the drive back, actually, you boys did the other day, you and Crackers and the lads. It was a brilliant show. So thanks for keeping us company for that. But I think Porro, because of his attacking prowess now, gives us the opportunity to move the wider players a little bit more inside, so Perisic and Porro can go around the outside. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
That's what's exciting me, because Kulusevski has already come out and said, I see myself as a number 10. Son can operate in them particular areas. They can also go past and let Kane drop back deep if he needs to, or keep Kane up top where he can pop in the goal. So I think he's got pace. He's power. He's little, he's quite nimble. He loves a cross, assists galore. I think it's a fantastic sign for Tottenham. It's exactly what we needed. And I know there's still loads of frustrations, but we've got to allow ourselves at some point just to be happy for even if it's for 1 or 2 minutes. And I'm very happy for this 1 minute that we've signed Porro.
Yeah, but I don't think again, I don't think it's even though there's still maybe lots that are going wrong for some in around the club. we are allowed to be happy for that moment of signing the player because, again, based on what we can see from him, he's a very, very good player and one that arguably would be looked at by any clubs around the world. City have got a buyback clause on him. I'm going to be honest with you and say to you, in these 31 days, I've been terrified thinking at some point City could just trigger that. I mean, they've lost Cancelo. He's obviously gone to Bayern Munich. So you do panic and think, well, they need another defender. James, if I can bring you in, sporting boss Ruben Amorim said earlier today that a player like Porro cannot replace himself. That's why, in reference to Spurs, they had to pay the clause. Our relationship is very close. He'll be missed. In football, we get used to change from a very young age. One day they're our children, our best friends, and now he is Conte's son. I mean, if it's based on that, you feel he's signing for Antonio Conte. Are you fairly comfortable, Jace, that you feel this player can be flexible enough to play regardless of who the manager is? Or do you think this is ultimately a Conte signing that he has arguably said, this is the one I want? Because the reason why I ask you that, we heard some rumours, I think, during the first part of the window that there were concerns about his overall physicality. So what do you think, Jace, overall? Is this a Conte signing or is this Tottenham looking at a player thinking this guy can be here for the long time regardless of who the manager is?
I think it does a bit of both, doesn't it? It's a signing that obviously Conte has pushed for, so it's got over. But as anyone said, if they're quality players, they should be able to play for Mo. Does Sporty play in a back four or a back three?
Very good question. I might have to relate and ask. It's a back three,
three. So
back three.
He has definitely played as a wing back all season.
He's a genuine white
wing back.
Yeah. Genuine white wing back.
Yep.
Right. But he's still a quality player. But the key thing is if somebody comes in at a later stage and wants to play with a back four, it's can he adapt to playing as a right back? In the sense that Doherty could never adapt to playing as a right back, having played at wing back at Wolves and things like that. That's the thing. But if he's a quality player, he shouldn't have any problems whatsoever, should he? I mean, going back, I don't think any of us are sitting here, partly what Ant was saying, I don't think any of us are sitting here saying we are absolutely delighted with this transfer window tonight. Each and every one of us would have liked us to have done more. We would have done. Let's not lie about it. But what I'm pleased about is that we haven't settled for a second best signing just to do something, if you see what I mean. So, like I said earlier, I'm glad we haven't gone and signed Connor Cody because we needed a centre-back, when actually that's not what we should be doing, and that would have been a complete waste of money. And in 6 months' time, we'd have thought, why the hell have we signed him? That's typical Tottenham, settling for second best, settling for a cheapo, and we still need to go and buy one. So that's probably my difference. Some people would have liked to have seen a centre-back come in today. For me, if we couldn't get the ones we really wanted, then I'm glad we haven't gone and done a stupid deal just for the sake of doing a deal.
I mean, we've seen, Jess, haven't we, arguably, that we're still learning from the mistakes that we have made. The likes, obviously, of Ndombele, Reguilon, Lo Celso. I mean, again, we've actually got an 11 now that is actually out on loan at the moment, which we are going to come on to really, really shortly. Before we do,
Sorry, I just want to jump quickly. I mentioned that I did up the maths on this a while ago. The players that Tottenham have out on loan cost us £237 million. The players that we have out on loan at the moment. Now, look, that's obviously inflated by Ndombele and Lo Celso and their fees. At the opposite end, Harry Winks was free, still cost too much. But £237 million worth of players we have out on loan right now. It's an absolute farce. And
I think that's also, and Matt, you make that point there. I think many probably ask the reason why does Daniel Levy have an issue with spending big? You could probably argue that's the issue when you've got 238 million there in terms of loans, where arguably, Daniel will probably sit there and think, well, I bought you Dele Alli and I bought you certain players where they cost me 3, 4, 5 million and they made a difference for a certain period. But that's not me. Can I just make that point clear before I maybe get clicked on that? That is not me defending the fact that we haven't done and addressed big areas. I'm just making the point that you can understand why for a certain period where they may feel they don't want to spend the big money because they've been burnt in the past. But if I can just quickly come around to Anne, because I know this is... and
Rick, you know you're getting clipped on that without the caveat that you finish with, don't you? You do
Absolutely.
know.
That will be out.
The malevolent side will be out, and they'll clip that. And
I was putting a combined 11 today with an Arsenal shirt. Can it get worse than that? I don't know. I'll let you be the judge of that. Costa, if I can come around to you, Costa. Look, this is probably your favourite question I can ask you. Porro could take the number 2 from Matt Doherty or the number 24 shirt. And I know for your numbers of OCD, he can only have one number out of those two, can't he, Costa?
It's got to be two. It's got to be a
Gotta
number
be
two. Has to be. End of conversation, end of story. He's got to be number two. That's the first thing I always find crackers when we sign someone going, what number do you think he'll be?
I hope they make him 37 and 2/3
that'll
on the
be
back of his
worth.
shirt,
Mate,
just to do your OCD. Just to have you like, all icky. No stepping on the cracks in the pavement. 27 and 2/3. Get it done.
What I will say is we are. Go on.
Me and Crackers remember when Ozzy Ardiles was number 1 in the World Cup.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
Correct. Yes. One shirt. He did. Yeah.
I like to say, we are still. For those that are wondering here, like I say, for listeners on audio, while we haven't discussed Porro in the actual term of him being as a Spurs player, that we are recording this on deadline day, and we are still waiting for his announcement, and we are closing in on 20 to 10 UK time at the moment, and still Pedro Porro is yet to be announced as a Spurs player. We expect that to happen during the show at some point. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our second break of the show for our listeners on audio. Even though I'm trying to keep up. We've got the brilliant Sam Fonseca from the Sporting Podcast taking you into this break on audio, who gives you the lowdown on what we expect to be Tottenham's second signing of this window in Pedro.
Wasn't he the manager we were going for before Nuno?
That was Paulo Fonseca, wasn't it? Even I'm trying to keep up. You got to check these things.
Fonseca, wasn't it? Fonseca. Happy days.
Yeah. Like I say, Sam Fonseca taking you into that break.
Fonseca in EastEnders. Come on, Ant. You're our TV guru here. Dr. Fonseca. He was in EastEnders, wasn't he?
No, it was Dr. Leg.
He took over from... No,
That was Dr. Leg.
Dr. Leg. Come on. Doctor Who?
Dr. Leg, wasn't it?
Doctor Who? Oh no, that's another programme. Let's hijack Ricky's script here and just like completely go off grid. And start.
We did start
What's
with
your favourite TV doctor? Name me 10 TV doctors, Rick. Come on, we've got an hour and a half to fill here.
Doc Martin, yeah.
What's that? My speciality.
Does Dr. Tottenham
Doctor
coach?
Who?
Yeah,
Dr.
Tottenham there. Dr.
Oh
Tottenham.
my God.
Dr.
Mackie, you
Hook.
join this conversation? Any doctors, Mackie, you want to throw in? Any doctors?
No, I think most of the doctors have been covered off, boys.
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Foster's coming in. Dr. Dre.
Foster.
Dr. Pepper.
Seven.
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
The doctor
Are we
at
all,
Tottenham.
are we all doctored?
Dr. Siddiqui, he was my doctor when I was a kid. Quality doctor, mate, he was.
Matt Dr. T.
I am going to try and bring the show back to some form of order. We're going to stick with Costa and we're going to go to Crackers and discuss Spurs' first signing of this window, which they managed to do following a hijack at Everton. If I can come over to you, Costa. And that was the Arnaut Danjuma. Now, obviously, with this deal here for Tottenham, it was quite literally a hijack at the very last moment. He was on the brink of signing for Everton. What we understood was he'd done all the media at Everton, even his pictures taken. By all accounts, he was even shaking hands with the Everton forward, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as they were going to go out for training. Then he got pulled back and said, offers coming for Tottenham. Yeah. Back round a U-turn round Finch Farm and up to Spurs. We saw a glimpse of him and in the cup game at Preston. What did you make of him in that 20 minutes? Probably hard to give much of a judgment on the score sheet.
Yeah, I wrote in the group, didn't I? I said I love a debut goal. I thought it was, you know, he scuffed shot, but it's still a debut goal, and it give him a little bit of confidence going into the next game. I liked what I saw. You know, 20 minutes little cameo. Obviously against Preston, it's a different kettle of fish, but what I liked about him was the fact that he wanted the ball. He wanted the ball. He was getting annoyed with certain players if they didn't pass it, and I like that. I like that bit of grit, bit of energy, and I hope he can bring that come Sunday. I think he's going to hopefully be on the bench and come on, and who knows, he might score the winner like Stephen Bergwijn did a couple of years ago.
Let's come over to you, Matt, and we'll wait for Crackers to come back. Matt, look, I mean, in terms of the profile of player, I think we could... Oh, Crackers is back. Let's go with Crackers, then we'll go to Matt. I think you could probably maybe say, Crackers, the profile of the player probably wasn't one that we were looking at in the window. I mean, we've had several journalists on here that have said he was on the list, but he may not necessarily have been top of that list for Tottenham. I just wonder your opinion on how you find it, bearing in mind that he seemed to do a tour of a lot of the UK before Everton finally stumbled on him. Spurs did get him over the line. Do you think he's going to have the impact that we do need him to have between now and the end of the season as a minimum?
sometimes players like this, they just drop into your lap, and they're a surprise package because there's not the fanfare, there's not the pressure around them. So it could well be. You know, we went and signed Ozzy Ardiles many years ago, number one for Argentina, as Jason rightly pointed out, and threw in his mate in the deal, Ricky Villa, and the rest is history. You know, Ozzy overall was the better player, and Ricky would tell you that himself. You know, we went and bought Andy Reid, didn't we, from Forest, and they threw in a free Michael Dawson with it, and look what happened now. So sometimes these players come in with little to no pressure, and it just gives them a certain amount of freedom, doesn't it? So let's see. It's all about the 6 months down the line, isn't it? You know, you can go out and buy the best quality tin of tomatoes. Doesn't mean you're going to make a great bolognese sauce with it, does it? And then you pick one up that's like, look, I'll show you. These, have a look at these. Knockoff Pringles from Lidl, okay? I don't know if you can get them in the UK, but we get them here in the Canary Islands. They are about 2/3 cheaper than Pringles. They're twice as nice. I hope you ain't got a deal signed with Pringles for advertising, Rick.
Not yet.
I've absolutely scuppered it. But it just shows you sometimes these things fall into your lap and you go, oh, happy days. That's half the price and it's done twice the job. So let's see. He might be Danjuma, the Lidl's Pringle of Tottenham Hotspur. So we've now got the cheese grater, the dustman, and the Lidl's Pringles playing for us. I'll have an analogy for every player in this team come the end of the season if it kills me.
Yeah, I want to ask you what
I think
Dyers
as
is.
well. I mean, when you say, you know, because we stole him from Everton, the feeling is, oh, only Everton wanted him and therefore not good player. As I say, Bentancur was stolen from Aston Villa when nobody was after him. But if we'd have signed, in the summer, we were led to believe Zaniolo was the one that we want. And we were linked with Zaniolo earlier in the window. If we'd have signed Zaniolo, we'd have all been happy. But consequently, the only other club that was interested in Zaniolo was Bournemouth. But we wouldn't have seen that as stealing a player from Bournemouth. But his choice was Tottenham or Bournemouth, and this one's choice was Tottenham or Everton. Yeah. But we'd have been delighted to sign Zaniolo, and we don't want to sign Danjuma. But the scenario is exactly the same between the two.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, the one thing, Matt, coming into conversation, if I can bring you in there, is that the argument is that he may not have been the first choice. And it doesn't mean because you get the first choice that you're going to automatically succeed with them. The question is whether he was the man that Conte wanted, because I think we all still sing off the same hymn sheet right now. And guys, tell me if I don't. I think we all feel Conte's still the right man for the football club. And we would like him to commit and to be backed and be given exactly what he wants, because the proof is in the pudding with Conte that he has won, 5 titles in the last 8 seasons. He always wins a trophy in at least his second season at a football club. So, I mean, the reality is that if you give him what he wants, he is ultimately going to succeed. Do you think that, you know, he would have been satisfied by Danjuma? He's made an immediate impact against Preston. Do you think he can continue that now for the rest of the season? And will he be in the manager's forefront there because of the nature of the injuries that we have had across the forward line at times this season?
I don't think Danjuma is going to be as much of a revelation as it seems from that debut. I mean, like I think Anthony mentioned it a while ago, Stephen Bergwijn scored in his debut, and things didn't really go well from there. So I think, especially given it was championship opposition as well, I don't want to get too excited about what we saw from Danjuma in that game. But I do think Antonio Conte will be happy to have him in there. He's, again, not the best player in that position. He's not the greatest option that was out there, but he's a very astute signing. And he's one, even if he just comes in and offers a bit of competition to Heung-min Son on that left-hand side, and Son gets a little bit of a kick, you're not playing well, only 4 goals this season. If you don't play well, there is a man here who can come in and take your place in that team. And I think he will have something of an impact in there. So yeah, I do think Conte will be happy with it. And like you're saying there, I definitely think Conte is the best manager that we could have at this football club. You know, if he goes, we're going back to square one with Pochettino. Look, I adore him more than anyone, and I think what he did for this football club was absolutely fantastic. But in terms of the trajectory of this club, it is a step back, because we have a winner. We have someone who, like you said, 5 league titles in his last 8 seasons, wins trophies everywhere he goes. But the only thing that we need to take into consideration, and this is a message to any fan who's being frustrated with Conte or who thinks we'd be better off without Conte, take a look at the team that Conte inherited at Juventus, the one that he inherited at Chelsea, the one he inherited at Inter Milan, and then take a look at the team that he's inherited at Tottenham Hotspur. He himself was the only man after that first transfer window and after that big transfer window in the summer, when a lot of us, I'll admit I was one of them, was getting overexcited, thinking we were winning every trophy under the sun and we'd even somehow go on and win the World Cup.
Yeah,
we were so very excited about that. He was the one that was constantly saying, hold up, wait a minute, this will take some time. This is a 2, 3, 4 transfer window job. What we've done now is not enough. And again, like some managers of Spurs have been in the past, some perhaps a victim of his own success. We made our best ever start to the Premier League season. The confidence and everything was higher again, but he was still saying, no, relax a little bit. There's still so much work to be done in this team. So I don't think we can ignore the fact that he's been saying from minute one that this is going to take time, and this will take a lot to do. But we just need everything to be shaped and pointed towards and just purely satisfying what Conte wants and what Conte needs, because none of us can sit here and say that he's not going to win a trophy if he does get what he wants. And look, let's be perfectly honest. If Conte left in 2 or 3 years' time and we had just won an FA Cup, I'd be delighted with that, because I think we will be a consistent Champions League team with him. I'm not expecting Conte to win the Premier League or the Champions League at Tottenham, purely because the ceiling in English football right now is so high. Arsenal have done absolutely fantastically and I hate saying that, but they've done fantastically to get to where they are right now. They won't be there next season. I think Liverpool in a bit of a transitional period. Maybe Klopp will be there next season, maybe they won't, but there is enough of a structure there for them to back up that high next season. So I think it is a step too far to say that we might win the biggest trophies, but Conte, given what he needs and given time, there will be more silverware put into that trophy cabinet at Hotspur at the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, Maka, if I can bring you in there just on Danjuma. I mean, I want to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, you wasn't around for the post-match analysis show we did, of course, against Preston. You were obviously at Preston at the time. Obviously, you got a chance to watch him up close and personal for that 25-minute appearance in which he scored on his debut. What did you make of him, Maka, overall? And do you think he will have that impact that we need him to between now and the end of the season at a minimum?
Yeah, well, I agree with Ant about the debut goal. I think it's really important. I mean, Bergwijn got a debut goal, didn't he? And where that might maybe take him, but he still scored a couple of big goals after that as well. And I think that away against Preston, and he did scuff it. And ultimately, that's not a massive goal, but it will give his confidence. You know, everybody knows, viewers and listeners, we all know that it's all about confidence. You know, there's talent there for sure. So let's see. And we also know that let's have it right. He snubbed Everton right at the last minute to come and be a bit part player when actually Everton needed to play every week. So, you know, is that an ambition for him? Yeah, because he wants to play Champions League football. He wants to work under Conte. You go into a club with Everton, it just sack their manager. So, you know, I think that there's let's just not put loads of pressure on the bloke. He's not going to come in and do, you know, he's not a Lionel Messi, is he? Let's be fair. But he's a good guy, and you know he can come in and do the business. He's got off the mark already. I think it will push for the competition for places piece we talked about before, and I think that's really important. There's a lot of these players that, and some people don't agree with the whole Son scenario. I think if Richarlison had been fully fit, maybe Son wouldn't have been playing as much as what he has been. But I also do think that Conte has pushed him through this bad period, and to show him, no, you're still my man, you're still my man. And actually, when he needed to step up, i.e. in Kane's absence, he'd done the business, didn't he? He scored two great goals. So I think Danjuma will be good for us. Look, I'm positive about it. Like, I'd have loved, I said to you this morning, Rick, didn't I? I think we have a surprise today. Or I think I said last night. And we didn't get one.
No, we both got excited, but I mean, that's normal. You do that in a window. Yeah.
Like last night, you got excited, Rick. Do you know what I mean? That's normal.
Yeah, well, well, it doesn't happen this often at this age now, anyway.
That's because he was watching Love Island.
I don't know.
This could be true, mate. This absolutely could be true.
That could set me back a couple of years.
I think the thing that's, you know, the frustrating thing about it is that, we all know that we need to do more, and and we have to wait. Spurs have to wait. It's frustrating that we do, but we do. And until things change at the club and the way we do things, and the owners change, if they decide to leave, or QSI come in and put £1 billion in investment, 30%, whatever it might be, we still might be waiting by then, because they might just pocket the money, right, and stick another couple of flats up there or whatever they might do. So who knows?
No, you're right.
The point I'm making is that it's like the toothpaste analogy right at the beginning. Like we get frustrated with the same thing over and over again. It's like, do you know what? We can't control it. Let's not worry about it. Let's just enjoy what we got. We've got Danjuma. We've got Pedro Porro. Let's go top four. Let's go FA Cup.
Yeah.
Let's win the Champions League. Come on.
Well, listen, we're in the competitions. We're in there to win it. That's what it's about. I mean, Jay, if I can bring you in there, when you look at his overall record, he's in the Champions League, especially his league references there, 12 appearances, 7 goals. He does seem to shine on the big stage, you'd argue. His record at in La Liga, 82 appearances, 29 goals, 10 assists, 16 goals with the right foot, 13 with the left. I mean, he's not shy to know where the back of the net is in terms of his overall goal involvements. I suppose the question is, how quickly can he adapt to the league? But then he did play for a period in Bournemouth as well. I mean, do you think overall, Jace, be based on the options out there? And you said in your opening piece that January, in your opinion, isn't the most easiest window to operate. And I'm many, again, in a disagreement with that. Do you think it's the best what we could have done? Or do you think we could have been just a bit more... we could have pushed that about a bit more, Jason, the most polite way of putting it.
Yeah, we probably could have done, but like I say, we only seem to be linked with Zaniolo, that was the only attacking player that we really seemed to be linked with, wasn't it? He's Zaniolo,
yeah.
But
yep.
There'll be lots of people criticising Danjuma that a year ago were begging to sign Adama Traore. And I tell you what, he's a damn sight better than Adama Traore's ever been. So
surprised he hasn't come in, Jace. I thought he might be coming in.
It's a case of Danjuma or Oil Boy. I know which one of the two I'd sooner have. But
I think he's coming in, mate. Breaking news.
Oh my God, don't do that. Could you imagine? Well, we're still waiting for Porro here. We're still waiting for Porro. But I mean, so overall, Jace.
I think as well, it's what's the role has he been brought in to do? He's been brought to do what the Lucas Moura role and almost what the Bergwijn role was, isn't it? It's a backup player. If he's any good, we sign him in the summer. If he's not, we say thanks very much. Off you go. It's as simple as that. We'll have a better choice. I think it will drive you mad, Rick, but I'm sure he'll play at Sheffield United that week, and we'll see then if he can come in and be a proper backup player. And what? If he scores, I mean, if I said to you, do you want Danjuma to score 5 or 6 crucial goals between now and the end of the season, you'd take that, won't you? We're not looking for a bloke to come in and score 15.
No, you're right.
So,
you're right. You're spot on.
I'm sure we could have done better than Danjuma, but all I mean is the options seem to be Zaniolo or nobody else, because I don't remember another player that was linked to us. Also, more or less in the summer, the only one that was linked to us really was Zaniolo, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. We are noticing that Matt Doherty is closing in on his move currently at the moment to Atletico Madrid. We are going to be turning our attention to outgoings in the next few minutes. Before we do, lost Cracks there, so I'm going to come around to you, Matt, and then we'll go back to Cracks. Matt, based on the fact that it looks like it's going to be the only 2 incomings in relation to, of course, Pedro Porro and Danjuma, in that department, do you think based on the overall 2 that we've brought in there's enough between them there to really give us an opportunity of getting into the top 4? We are going to cover, obviously, of course, season expectations a bit later in the show, but based on them being the only 2 that we know of at the moment, and we don't expect that to change, do you think we've done enough there, Matt?
To be honest, I still think our top 4 qualification depends on Newcastle and Manchester United. I don't think these 2 give us enough to say confidently that we'll be able to catch Newcastle and Man United, which... Look, it's not fun to say, but I think unless I know Christian Eriksen getting injured for Man United for a long period could be detrimental to them, but they're getting in Marcel Sabitzer. If he turns out to be a great player, they're not really going to miss much there. But hopefully, the absence of Eriksen will be bad for them. On Newcastle's front, they've got some big games coming up, and Bruno Guimaraes has just been sent off in the final, so I think he's now suspended for 3 Premier League games. Maybe they drop some points there, but for me, that's what we're looking at. For me, that's what I'm That's what I'm counting on for Tottenham to be able to get into the top 4. And Lee mentioned it a while ago that that we were in a worse position than this last season. It's absolutely true, and we had a fantastic end to the season to be able to get back into that top 4. But for me, it still boils down to the fact that on the second last day of the season, the Monday night before the season ended, we were still relying on Arsenal to drop points, and that's not the type of club that we need to be. We made enough signings. We have good enough players. We have a good enough manager. We are a big enough club to be able to do these things on our own terms and of our own accord. I don't want to be going into the last few weeks of the season again needing other teams to drop points, because it's just not exciting. It's not fun. It's not good enough. And I think we are here already again. Look, Newcastle United both 3 points ahead of us, both with a game in hand. You know, it's very, very much in their control at this stage. I personally don't think the 2 we've signed are enough to give me that confidence to say, well, we are now better than them. We will go on and beat Man City next week. We will win some derby games or whatever. We're just not at that point. I still look at that defensive line, those 3 centre backs. Romero hasn't been up to scratch this season, still the best that we have, and someone that I wouldn't get rid of for the world. But is it something like 9 of our last 11 or 8 of our last 12 games we've conceded 2 goals in the Premier League? The 2 signings we've made don't change that in any way for me, and I'm still concerned about just how many points we'll be able to pick up between now and May.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. We're going to go to Crackers and we're going to go to Ant, then we are going to turn our attention to outgoings. Crackers, come round to you. Ant, you're absolutely fine now, mate. Just to let you know, I can see you're wondering. You're fine. Let's go to you, Cracks. Based on our situation, I must just say, we've had some breaking news here come through very quickly on Matt Doherty, which I just need to read out. And I say, again, never know what's going to happen with Tottenham. This has just come through from Tottenham that we have mutually agreed the termination of Matt Doherty's contract, which is breaking right now.
Wow.
So that's a big news from Tottenham coming through to us right here. That I can read the statement out from Tottenham right now that the club have agreed to mutually terminate the contract of Matt Doherty to enable him to join another club. Signed from Wolves in August 2020. The Republic of Ireland international made 71 appearances for us, all in competition, scoring 3 goals. We should like to thank Matt for his service and wish him well for the future. So that is breaking news coming directly from Tottenham. That is a termination of Matt Doherty's contract.
So he's definitely wearing a number 2 shirt then.
It could be 24 because Spencer's gone as well.
You've got to love Costa. We've just terminated someone and he goes straight to the number.
Do you know what the reason on that is?
No, it's
fine. Matt, over to you, Matt. Go on.
There were some rumblings on Twitter of this earlier today, but it makes complete and utter sense. We have 8 players loaned out at the moment, and there's some FIFA rules that say you can't go over the number 8. And there was, again, some rumours and rumblings that Tottenham were looking for a way around that to try and loan Doherty out. But if that is true about those FIFA rules, that you can't have more than 8 players out on loan. Like Matt just mentioned there in the chat, I'm not sure if it's a foreign loan rule, because as far as I'm aware, that Jed Spence does fall into that category as well. And he's obviously an English international, but I would assume we just have too many players loaned out. But the good news is we now only have £222 million worth of players loaned out, so we're on the up.
Well, so Matt, how have Chelsea got about 420 players loaned out then at the moment?
Because the majority of them are youth players. Like we've got Dane Scarlett, Troy Parrott, and all that loaned out as well. I don't know if it comes down to age or it comes down to where they've made most of their appearances. But again, this is just something I saw on Twitter a while ago. But it does make sense given the development that we've seen now.
Yeah,
this is the problem. We seem to be the only club that plays within the rules. Well, and that seems to be the problem, doesn't it? Everybody else seems to bend and shape the rules, or they just don't.
You say that, Cracks, but have we not been brutal there? I mean, I'm going to be honest and say that. Look, I wish Matt Doherty all the best. For me personally, I don't think Matt's ever been good enough for the grade at Tottenham, in the most politest way of putting that. But I mean, let's get your reaction to that, Cracks. Matt Doherty, termination of his contract. That's going to enable him to join Atletico Madrid. I think we're still waiting. I mean, I presume that means that, as far as we're aware, that might be a loan to the end of the season. We don't know his contractual situation now.
He's gone,
Madrid.
Rick. He's gone. If he's terminated, he's got his own registration. He's got the keys to it. Like he's got the deeds to his own house now. Yeah, he goes where he likes.
What's your reaction to that? What's your reaction to that, Cracks? Surprised, shocked?
Well, I mean, it's come way out of left field, isn't it? But it just, let's hope. I mean, there's probably going to be more meat on the bone and devil in the details with this, etc., and reasons why. But I think that the club are just going to have to terminate a few of the other contracts as well, to be honest. The mob up the road done it. They've done it with Lacazette. They've done it with Aubameyang. They've done it with Ozil. You know, and this is that's a club down the road that's not even in the same league as us financially anymore, with our stadium versus their stadium, etc., revenue flows and everything. They've done it. You know, so I just, some of these people are saying, oh, you know, we've still got this one on the wage bill, that one on the wage bill. Terminate them. And I think that's all you're going to have to do is just pay up and get them off the books and go again. People like Ndembele, Lo Celso, they're not coming back, are they? It's not happening. It is just not happening. So you just have to terminate it, because, you know, if you turn around and say, oh, well, you know, there's money involved. Well, guess what? At the end of the season, there's another big bucket load of it coming from the TV companies here, there and everywhere. And, you know, I think it's just a ruthless position that we're going to have to take to try and clear the decks and go again with it. But, yeah, I felt sorry for Matt, to be honest, because, you know, he came in, he seemed a bit overawed to start with. Then he hit some form. Then he got injured. He's got back. So, you know, I wish him well, Rick, because there's an honest lad that you know, that gave his all. And I can't be down on anybody that gave it all. I know Ant and I often disagree over this. A bit like Harry Winks. Harry Winks was one that gave it his all, but he's just not good enough. And football's a horrid, horrid game. And if you're not good enough to step up to a level where you want to get to, then you're out the door. You know, there's no place of sentiment anymore, is there? So, well, yeah, I mean, it has really come out of left field. And as Matt says, it's probably to do with, you know, how many we can have out on loan, etc., etc. So they've obviously done a deal with him on the rest of his contract, or it's somehow been the slack's been taken up by the club that he now goes to. But yeah, wow. You know who said nothing else was happening tonight?
Well, exactly. This is what I mean with Last Word On Spurs. Always be prepared. Can I just say a massive thank you to Lee McQueen tonight. Lee, unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, we've unfortunately had to lose Lee for the rest of the show. So wishing Lee all the best. Lee's back with us very, very soon on Last Word On Spurs.
He's been terminated, Rick.
You stole my line, Crackers. You stole my line.
Sorry, Matt.
The technical difficulties.
Not good enough, Lee McQueen. Terminated, settled, gone.
It started off as a kid show. It's ending in becoming more of a serious format now, given the nature of the news. And we are still here at the moment. We're an hour and a half into this show and still no Pedro Porro. And since then, we've had a termination of a Spurs player's contract. Unbelievable. Can I come to you, if I can, next, just to get your thoughts on this? I mean, I don't know if you share that same opinion as me, and in relation to Doherty.
Never really kicked on, did he, Doherty?
No, fine professional, but arguably for me, never quite good enough to cut the grade.
I mean, I've reading a lot on the comments now. Sorry when you was asking me the question, Rick, but there's a lot of people saying that Kane will be unhappy because I know that they were proper tight, them two, as like proper mates. But listen, we're not here to babysit. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed that well. You know, as Crack said, he had a few good games. Injuries were always against him as well. I felt a bit sorry for him last year. Matty Cash, obviously the Villa game and that, it done him a little bit. And I think him coming back, he just didn't look the same player. So I wish him all the best, and I hope that he finds a new lease of life playing the game that he loves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what you guys are thinking there. If I can come around to you, Jace, just to get your reaction to this, because this is one that has come out so left field with regards to Matt Doherty that it's not that we was expecting. I think we're all being honest about it. His long-term future, you'd probably argue, would have been up for debate if we're being quite frank, because of the nature of the fact that ultimately, with his age and taking into account the way Spurs want to play under Conte style, you'd probably arguably say they wouldn't have really fit for that particular mould. So do you just think in all, which is the best decision now for everybody, that he goes to Atletico Madrid, which has now been announced officially? He is now a Madrid player. Is it best for all parties, Jace?
Not fussed. He's gone. Move on.
You're as brutal as the statement. But quite honestly, Jace, thoughts on it?
Well, you know, we've been spending all day saying all these players out on loan and we'll have them all coming back in the summer. So there you go. He's not coming back in the summer. He wouldn't have been a first choice player, would he? We'd have ended up loaning him out again next summer. So best for all parties. You know, how much did he cost us? 12 million?
15.
Yeah,
I
12
think.
million.
12 million, something like that.
Was it 12 to 15? Yeah.
Do you?
So I don't know how many. Did he have 1 year left on his contract? I don't think he signed a big
18
4
months.
or 5 years.
18 months left on the current deal.
18 months.
Yeah.
So come next
Yeah.
summer, he'd have been out on loan and he'd have gone at the end of that summer on a free transfer anyway, wouldn't he? So
Yeah.
you could almost say he probably played his last game for us anyway, and
Yeah.
he would have probably left on a free transfer. So all you've done is speed the process up.
It's interesting. I
Do you
mean,
think that was a Conte decision, lads? Do you think that was a Conte's decision?
I mean, do you know what? It's interesting. Matt, you answer that. What do you
No.
reckon? No?
I-
Cracks saying no. Go on, Matt. You come in and we'll go to Cracks. Go on,
I
Matt.
think Conte. I think it's a bit of both. I think Conte absolutely wanted to get rid of one or Doherty or Emerson because we're obviously a little bit thinner now, which is more of a reason to go and get in maybe another right back, maybe another young kind of backup option. But I think it's probably a leaving Enoch decision to get rid of Doherty instead of Emerson Royale. And the pure reason for that is sell on value, because like Jason said there, Doherty's contract's up in 2024. I would imagine that we've terminated the contract because any fee that we could have got probably would have been in and around the value of his contract that was left. So we're just breaking even, basically. Not much of a financial impact by terminating him instead of just paying out the rest of that contract. But from a Tottenham perspective, Emerson Royale, again, look, useless for this team. Not good enough offensively, but he's a very, very good defensive player. He's still extremely young and he'll still offer lots of teams on the continent. I think we can get 10, 15, 20 million for Emerson Royale, and that is probably where I think Levy and Ian stepped in and made the decision to get rid of Doherty instead of Emerson. Just as well, Alistair Gola just said basically what I was saying about the loan deals. You can have a maximum of 8 international loans. So it's not international players, it's just players out abroad on loan. So the only way we can get rid of Doherty, we can't make him the 9th, so he's had to terminate that contract.
It's an
I
interesting
think
one.
as well, you know, Conte's alluded several times this year, he's not back to the fitness levels he was. He hasn't ever really been a first choice this season, has he? I think all the big games, he started Arsenal, didn't he? A couple of weeks ago, Doherty. But most of the big games, he's gone with Emerson Royal for whatever reason. I think like I said, he's alluded several times to him not being fit. He's not going to, you know, if there is a remnant of a problem from that Matty Cash tackle, it's never going to improve, is it? So he's only aging and getting worse. So, you know, probably is best. And, you know, we've praised, the lot down the road have been praised for getting players off the books. So there you go. We've got one off the books. So be it.
Cracks, what do you mean? Because I'm interested in your thoughts on it, Cracks, because it is quite left field. We wasn't expecting to be discussing, you know, his actual exit tonight. It was expecting to be a loan. Do you think that, you know, in our situation, it seems, again, what Matt said there with regards to Ali's update, didn't really have much of a choice, really? I mean, does it just benefit all parties that now for the club, you'd argue what we've got in that position now? You've got Pedro Porro, you obviously have got Emerson Royale, and you also have got Dejan Kulusevski, who arguably could play as a right wing back if you need him to. Is it that dramatic news, Cracks, when you're given the fact that we've got options there?
Well, I think it would have been looked at from a financial point of view, which means it wouldn't have come down to the manager. This would have come down to the board, wouldn't it? As soon as it's anything financial, that's down to them, and they would have looked at it and seen which way stacks up best for the finances, and obviously this way does. So. Like I said before, I like the ruthlessness. That's what you've got to do. I think it may even shake 1 or 2 players up at the moment in the club that will look at it and go, well, you know, we've seen these stories of so has been told that he can leave and they don't want to go because they're quite comfortable there. Well, you might now well find yourself terminated instead of just like sitting on the bench. So it just seems to be a maybe it might be a one-off, but if this is a change in the operating or the way we operate and players will just be terminated like this, then it might well shake things up. But I don't know. Emerson Royal puts me in mind of the old man in the what's the South Korean Netflix series called?
I know what you're talking about.
Squid Games.
Squid
Games, isn't it? Emerson Royal's the old man from Squid Games, isn't he? He's like everybody seems to be getting terminated around him, and he just goes through to the next round every time, doesn't he?
Just keeps surviving.
He just keeps surviving, doesn't he? Like, you know, Emerson Royal's like cockroaches and Ryanair, isn't he? It's the only things that's going to survive a nuclear attack, isn't it? Is Emerson Royal, cockroaches and Ryanair. It's the only thing that's ever going to survive, and he just seems to be bulletproof, the man, doesn't he? It's crazy, but
Ryanair.
Nothing wrong with Ryanair. It gets me back to the UK for about 20 quid. Don't worry about that.
I've got to tell you what, mate. They fly a lot quicker than Turkish Airlines as well.
We're still waiting for him to land. Just a bit of an update. I'll let Matt. I mean, I think you got a bit of an update, Matt, as things stand at the moment with regards to Porro potentially.
Yeah, it looks like Sporting are about to announce the signing of Hector Bellerin. We've kind of known all along they needed a replacement to let him go. They've just put up a lovely teaser of sort of like some hair being combed. And we know how Bellerin likes to make sure his appearance is perfect. So I assume the dominoes are starting to fall now. Again, I'm sure we're obviously going to get the announcement tonight, but hopefully it's.
We'd like to think we're getting it tonight. I mean, God, we've waited how long?
Let's hope Romero starts pulling that out like Cucurella.
Can I bring Ant in? And just very quickly from your perspective, do you have any concern, Ant, with relation to the options that we've now got on that right-hand side? I mean, Porro won't be able to play every game, will he? We're being honest with you. He's going to have a period where he's going to have some adaptation. Of course, we're saying we want him in for City, like all of us do. But you look at our options there now. Emerson, Royale.
Royale, isn't it?
Him and Royale. But do you think you could have Kulusevski if you need to in there as another option?
I'd like to see him play right wing back. I think Conte's alluded to that in the past, in terms of his ability to run up and down the wings and whip a ball in. But is he a proper right wing back? No. I think the only real right wing back we've got is Porro, and I think he's got to start regardless. He has to be first choice, and I think you've got to start playing your proper 11 now. He's got the player that he wanted. There's no mucking about.
Yeah. You know what?
Do you know what I mean, Rick? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, the fact of the matter is now, obviously, Ian's obviously come the man. We want Pedro Porro. And I said, apologies for this. For our listeners on audio listening to this back, they're going to think, how has this announcement not been done when this show has been ongoing for nearly 2 hours and we are still waiting for Pedro Porro's arrival? We promise you it will come tonight. Go on, Ed.
Rick, look at Bobby Dwyer's comment. He knows where I'm coming from, man.
I'm going to have to try and find him, Bobby. We're going to try and find you. We're going to pop you up there. Bobby there. Doherty leaving on the free. Up the number 2 shirt for Porro, which is fantastic for my OCD and for Costas as well. And will the Spanish be able to pronounce Doherty's name properly? Matt, I feel like I have to come round to you for that. What do you think? They get it right?
No, there's no one outside of this country that can pronounce Matt Doherty's name right, okay? And Anthony, if you think you get annoyed about the numbers on the back of the jerseys and Ozzy Ardiles and his number 1, I swear to God, there's not one of you on this panel that has ever been more annoyed about anything to do with football than Irish fans having to listen to Doherty and Doherty and every other butchering of his name over the last 2.5 years. But that's the only good thing to come out of tonight is I can actually rest with that.
Actually, in terms of numbers,
it's Doherty.
Doherty.
No. Doherty.
Doherty. There you go. Paddy there. Doherty.
That's exactly.
I spoke to Paddy the other day. I can reference that for sure.
Talking about numbers, didn't we have Lamella one year had 2 numbers?
Did he?
Did he have a European number? And then
he did.
He had like a European number and a Premier League number. I think it was Lamella had 2 numbers.
Only Tottenham
11 and 33.
Something like that.
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah, one because he was registered before, the deadlines were different or something, and or we had number 11 and flogged in the next day or something, and it was too late to change the Premier League, but we could change it for Europe or something daft like that, wasn't it?
We've now got the Irish Army contingent during the Last Word On Spurs chat saying, and Matty, you bloody tell them. So we got the Irish Army in with us here, no pressure. What we are going to do very quickly, we are going to go for our next break of the show. For our listeners that are on audio, look, we are still waiting for the Pedro Porro announcement here on Last Word On Spurs, in which is your deadline day special, your countdown to the end of this window. We're joined by the wonderful Matty Hayes, the superb Richard Cracknell, the brilliant Jason McGovern, and the wonderful Anthony Costa back on Last Word On Spurs. It's been a while. We're guiding you through the end of this window. Cracks, I'm going to turn to you next. And whilst we do wait for the announcement of Pedro Porro, we are going to discuss another exit of Tottenham, only on loan, which I'm sure will please the majority of people, and that is of Jed Spence, who has departed the football club and has joined Stade Rennais along with, I think actually I even met him, but Joe Rodon, who is going to be joining up there.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Who? Joe Rodon. Correct. 41 minutes of game time for Jed Spence in between him signing for Tottenham, and of course this move to Stade Rennais. I mean, are you happy with that, Cracks, or would you have preferred him to have a loan in England?
Well, I think a loan in England, same as Brian Hill, really. Though with Hill, it seems like he may have not settled to life in the UK. Yeah, I suppose really he wants game time. That's what the team that would promise him game time. So he's gone now. I don't know. It's a strange one, isn't it? The whole thing with Jed Spence. I don't really know. It looks like the club's bought him, and from the outside looking in, there may be difference, but you know, you don't get no news from Tottenham as to what's going on. So we all fill the void with our own theories, don't we? There you go. Lewis Holtby, and he had 2 numbers when he signed as well. Comment on the screen now.
Maybe it was him. Maybe it's him I'm thinking of or something.
No, it was Lamella as well,
Okay.
Jace. It was Lamella.
Was Lamella?
Yeah, it was as well. What number? Hold on. Holtby was 14.
It's going to be hijacked now, isn't it?
Ant's not sleeping tonight.
Matty, I'm telling you, and the encyclopedic nature of him, he'll know you every number from the 90s and backwards and forwards. He's got an obsession with him, I tell you. He doesn't worry about getting a player over the line. He just cares what shirt they wear. Forget the price. He ain't got a bloody clue. Or doesn't even mind the price. Crackers,
was it
Spence?
Was it Bergvine or Bodgwins? I can't quite remember.
We haven't got to get Matty involved in that debate, thankfully, on that one. But Spence overall, I mean, how important, Cracks, will this loan be for him in relation to the rest of the season? Will he be primed to come back and be ready to come back for the summer?
Well, it depends if Conte's still there, doesn't it? Really, it's like Conte just seems he's going to die on that hill, that he's not going to play the player. I don't. It's just baffling. It's just bizarre. The whole thing with oh, thank you. My tea's just arrived. The whole thing. It's baffling, Rick. I really, honestly don't know what to make of it. Was he not training well? Was he not showing enough? Is Conte just digging his heels in because he won't be dictated to as to who's going to be, like, what players he's going to be bought? And I feel sorry for the lad. So he's probably better off just getting out of Dodge for a while, seeing what happens, getting some game time under his belt, and then come back and go again. Who knows? By the time he comes back, we could have had another 3 managers, couldn't we? And
I've got to say, Cracks, the comment on the screen there from Paddy's probably right. He said, by the time they do announce Porro, we'll do a Legends Night for you.
Very good, Paddy. Yeah, I reckon you're right there.
That'll be a sellout if you can get a return up at this rate, Cracks. You might have to have a warm up beforehand at this rate. I tell you. I
think so. Yeah, maybe I could get Matt Doherty to
Crackers,
to do the warm up.
I can't deal with this anymore. All right, he's gone. Let's move on.
Matt, honestly, I'm not even Spanish, and it gets on my nerves when people call him Brian Gill. It's Hill. Come on.
Hill.
2 L's are a Y and a G is a H. Come on, it's not hard. All right.
I love the fact we're getting
Hackney. If I can get it, you can get it.
I don't. You never thought we'd have Crackers giving out elocution lessons in an hour and 45 minutes into our last word on Spurs. We're still waiting for Pedro Porro. If I can come around to you, Matt, and then we'll go to Anne and then Jace. Matt. Jed Spence, there was such high hopes when he came to the football club that this would be the guy that would make that right back spot his own or right wing back spot his own. And as we've seen it play out, quite clearly a player that Conte never really wanted. So, you know, from what we understand from Addy Gold, he still has a long-term ambition to succeed at Tottenham Hotspur. Do you think, Matt, he will end up becoming a success at the club regardless of who is in charge come the start of next season?
It's difficult to tell. I mean, he obviously hasn't played at a very high level yet. Forest did extremely well getting promotion last season, and he was such an important part of that. But the Premier League game is completely different, and we haven't really seen enough of him to be able to give a really balanced analysis of it. Now, look, what we have seen of him, that cameo against Forest in the EFL Cup and that dreadful night, and a few other kind of sub appearances for 5 or 10 minutes, he's been really energetic, and he's been he's been, not to the extent of Porro, but to some extent, the thing that we've been missing out on that right-hand side this season, because he picks up the ball and he runs forward. Bringing it back to the basics, pick up the ball and bring it closer to the opposition goal and then see what happens. And that, I think, is the energy that we could have done with a little bit more this season, but we haven't seen enough of him to really tell. And I'm quite enthusiastic about him and his attitude and stuff. You know, like you mentioned there, when he left, his comments, or supposedly he feels that he can still succeed long term at Tottenham, and that is his goal. I just think he's come in at a bad time, and there's not many wingbacks you can say it about, but I just don't think, for whatever reason, Antonio Conte is the manager for him. Whether it's stubbornness on Antonio Conte's part in not wanting to kind of buy into a club deal. He might have wanted, maybe he wanted Pedro Porro over the summer, maybe he wanted another right back. I got Jed Spence because that was what the club saw, again, as one with a little bit more sell-on value. It's really difficult to pinpoint what the issue is, but the be-all and end-all is there is an issue there, and for whatever reason, Conte doesn't want to play him, so getting out on loan is the best thing for him. Let's get some game time into him. Again, it's going to be the highest level he'll be playing at in the French league. Hopefully we can see a little bit of something that gives us confidence that maybe he could be option number 2 behind Pedro Porro next season.
And let's come around to you. Look, in relation to Spence, a player that we all had high hopes for and a player that we thought was going to really try and make that right wing back spot his own, given the nature he's going out on loan now for you. Is that the right decision? And do you think, again, come the summer, have we got a big decision to make in regards to, if Conte is here, whether he will get that game time which he desperately needs in order to grow as a player?
I think for me, I rated Spence. We did a show last season, and I mentioned him, and I said I'd like to see him in a Spurs shirt. But we haven't seen him a lot of him this season, as you just rightly said, Rick. Do I think a loan's good for him? Absolutely. But do I think he's gone to the wrong club? Yes. I believe he should have gone to a Premier League club, just to get Premier League minutes under his belt to be ready for next season. I really do hope that he comes back next season and challenges Porro for that right wing back spot, because we're going to need a squad. And I think he's a very, very good player. I've always rated him from his Forest days, and I think he's going to be good, mate. I really do, and I wish him all the best. And come back next season, Spence, and do the best for our club.
Yeah, absolutely. Jace, bringing you in here, question on the screen here from Tim Mann. It says, why did we not go in for someone like Zabani, young centre-back, an upgrade to Dyer and Davis, only 24 million? What do you think, Jace? I mean, you've answered a number of questions at the start of the show with regards to maybe why certain centre-backs weren't right for the club. Do you have an answer to that question?
Well, maybe the club didn't want him. This is what I mean. We're constantly accused of buying second options and cheap options. So, if for whatever reason the one they want is available in the summer, then you're better to wait until the summer rather than wasting, whether it's only 24 million. If the club view that if Conte says, no, I don't really want him, what's the point of wasting 24 million that you've got to spend in the summer? Somebody's already said we've got to pay for Kulu in the summer. We've got to pay for Porro in the summer. So what is the point of spending 24 million now that can be used in the summer on one that you genuinely want? It works that way. There's any number of players this window you could say, why didn't we go for him? Why didn't we go for him? Why didn't we go for him? But we always hear, back the manager, go and buy players that we want. Don't settle for second options. Don't do cheapies. Yeah. Where's the plan? Well, if the plan is what we're going to try and do, don't deviate from that. That's all I say. I don't judge whether the player's good enough. It's just, if they're not wanted, they're not wanted. Haven't we learned our lesson enough from buying second choices and players that, well, he's better than him, and he may well be better than Dyer, but if he's not enough better than Dyer that you genuinely want him as a first-team player for the next 5 years, don't bother doing it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And just in relation to your answer on Spence there, Jace, for you, probably, I'm sure we're all a little bit disappointed that he hasn't had the game time that we feel potentially he should have done. Because, I mean, Cracks, and I referenced on the last show, and I give Cracks the props for this comment. And I know what Cracks said on this point that I want to get your answer on, Jace, is that Cracks said it, and I'm just going to repeat what Cracks said, that, had Spence been given a few games to play and played quite well, it may have given Antonio a look about egg on his face. And therefore, there would have been more clamourings for him to get game time. So do you think he was always on to really a lost cause this season, Spence? Had he ever given an opportunity?
Possibly, but you knew his time was up in terms of this season when he wasn't picked for the Portsmouth game. Portsmouth were a League One team. It was a home game.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even get in the starting lineup then. So from the moment he wasn't picked for Portsmouth, you just thought there's a fair chance he'll go in the January window somewhere, probably on loan. I think we'd have all preferred it to have been a Premier League loan, but you have to have the Premier League options to go and do it. And I bet there wasn't a single Premier League option for Brian Hill. So in which case, do you send him on loan to a Premier League club where he might play a couple of games, or do you send him on loan where he's going to get proper game time? I think with Spence, we all hope. My worry is that I don't think he'll do anything at Rennes that will make Conte think anything different of him in the summer.
You know, it's a difficult one. I mean, in relation to this loan, very quickly, coming over to you, Cracks, you know, I asked you a question at the very start of this topic on Spence. I said to you, is this the best loan available for him? Could you have had an English loan? For me personally, and I know Ant's keen to come in on that, and I will ask Ant this as well, and as well as Matty, is this loan going to be massively beneficial in terms of the growth? Because I did see a comment earlier that says, look, maybe it's not about the place you go. It's the element of getting the game time. Because he had a number of options from England that we know Spence he had on the table. And he decided that for him, Rennes was the best option because he knows he's going to get first team football. Is that the be-all and end-all of this, Cracks? Just to get regular game time where it's been a season where he's not had that?
Yeah, this is all about minutes in his legs, and he feels that's what he needs, because I don't think the Premier League is like anything else, really, league-wise, for intensity and everything. And it's a shame he could not find a Premier League side that would actually give him some guaranteed minutes, because that really would have been the win. So who knows? I mean, minutes in his legs versus what he's expected to be doing if he comes back to the Premier League with us. Is that going to be enough? Does he back himself enough as a player to think to himself, I can return to the Premier League and I can do it. I just need to tick that over with regular minutes. So if that is the case, fair play for backing himself and the confidence. But again, as I said, I think the politics of this, if Conte is still here, then he won't be. I think that, you know, there's a lot of willy waving going on here, and I just can't see Conte playing him, even if he is the answer. You know, which I don't like. I don't like that. People should be happy to be wrong on such things, you know,
and be proved wrong, Cracks, as well.
And be proved wrong, you know, and come out and say, no, do you know what? I got that wrong, and he's gone away and he's worked hard and he's ready, and I'm happy to give him a chance. The player feels 10 foot tall. You know, other players see that and know that a mind of a manager can be changed. And I think it's a sign of strength and not a weakness if you do change your mind and opinions on things, to be honest. So, I don't know. That the whole Spence deal, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't ever see him back as well.
Oh, that would be gutted.
Just sort of gets kicked into I think Hill the same. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him back either. Just gets sort of kicked into the long grass of a transfer elsewhere. Who knows? But he certainly looked at a real prospect, didn't he? He really did. And
he did. What about, do you have it in your back of your heads, lads? The Spence deal, obviously, as we know, we read it today. It was a straight line. No buy option, no obligation to buy option, no this option. It's a straight line. Go and play your football and hopefully come back. Do you think Spurs are thinking for next season, as I said when we started talking tonight, if Conte is going to be the manager of Tottenham Hotspur next season?
I honestly think that's a massive part.
Do you think there's a chance that another manager is going to come in and play a system where Spence will flourish?
I think, again, and if it's led to be true, like, I'm sure the only man that I've said this before in Last Word On Spurs, that the only man that would appease a certain spectrum of the fan base would be Maurizio Pochettino, right? And the argument I feel with Poch is that, and look, I can't be a hypocrite. I said when Poch went, for me, it was the right time because he lost a lot of those players in that dressing room.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
came to the end of the cycle, and it came to the end of the cycle because they didn't back him when they should have backed him at the time when he said we need new furniture. So
sure.
I look at it now for me and just think to myself, I've got no doubt that players like Hill, like Spence, like Basuma, I think you would get more of a tune out of them under Maurizio Pochettino. That's just an opinion. That's more not me saying I want Conte to go, because for me, I still feel Antonio Conte is a winner. And if you back him with the right players, Conte wins. That is a proven fact. If you look at his CV, his record tells you that, Ant, doesn't it? And I think again with Spence, this is what will happen. Yeah. But this is the point, isn't it? I mean, a lot of these players that Cracks has referenced there, the Hills, the Spences, a lot of their future is going to be really dependent on who the manager is next season, right? And more than anything else.
That's why I don't think he's going to be there. That's why I don't think he's going to be there next season. I think there's been too much that's gone on between Conte and the board, and I just can't see him staying for various reasons. To be honest, I just don't see him be there, because if he was to be there, I think players like Spence and Hill would have probably pushed or got their agents to push to get them a permanent move away or a loan with an obligation to buy.
Yeah.
The fact that they've only gone on loan suggests to me that they think and they see the writing on the wall that Conte won't be there and a new man comes in and they get a clean slate. I just cannot see Conte being there next season. I just really can't, Rick.
What do you think? What do you think, Jason?
Yeah.
Matt?
I don't know. I mean,
Let's go,
Spence's
Jason. We'll go to Matt.
problem's gonna
Jason, thoughts?
Go on.
Well, I just think with Spence's problem, even if he comes back, I think, like I say, I think Conte will still have the prejudice or whatever. And the other problem he's got is that you've now spent 45 million on a bloke in front of him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's not coming back to fight. He's not coming back to fight with Emerson Royal or Matt Doherty. He's coming back to fight with Porro, who've just spent 45 million on. So that changes the position as well, doesn't it?
But again, that's where as a player, he needs to have a really good loan period now, back himself, and come back into someone with almost a bit of self-confidence to think.
And to a degree, I mean, the other slight difference when you come back next year is what competitions you're in. Because if you're in the Europa next season, then that's the ideal place to say to Porro, right, have a rest, and you play someone in those games, doesn't it? That's which is like Arsenal have gone through it and Man United and such have done. But if you're in the Champions League, as well as trying to finish in the top four in the Premier League, it makes it a lot harder to settle for someone that might make a mistake or two in the manager's eyes, doesn't it? Because you can't make mistakes in those.
Yeah.
If you're playing, at home to POC Salonika or someone like that, then it's not quite the same as playing at home to Bayern Munich, is it?
I'm worried when you give the names like that. And Crackers looked at me and thought, we're not going back on ITV3 again, are we? More Paco de Ferreira, don't kill us.
Me and Crackers get demoted as usual.
What was the other channel? Premier Sports. Remember that when they lost the pictures completely?
Why are we all targeting Irish companies tonight? Come on. Because Matt Doherty's going to have to do 5 minutes. Think you can say what you want.
Rick.
Can I just say we've got the Irish contingent in here tonight. Let's go easy, please. We're gonna get what we're gonna get here. We love the Irish.
Some of us have got to go to Limavady and Dublin very soon and face two roomfuls of about 250, 300 Irish men and women. Can I just say, Cracks, when you go there, please go and take Matty with you to make sure you get Matt's name right for future reference when he is on the tonight. That's what he will get on the show. I must go to Matt on Spence, and then we are going to move on and discuss Brian Hill. I've got that right, and Cracks will give me the confidence on that. Matty, Jed Spence, what do you think the person of the future holds for Jed Spence? Is it a fact that he'll have a good loan, and regardless of who the manager is come August, he's got himself to be in a better position than what he is right now?
Yeah, for definite. I mean, he deserves at least a chance, and I personally have been quite critical of Tottenham's loan deals and the players we've loaned out, like Brian Hill to Valencia last season. Didn't make sense. Why is he going back to Spain? He's not going to it's just more of the same from him there. Obviously, I think a little bit differently this time with his personal reasons. But for Spence, I refuse to believe that we couldn't have found a Premier League club willing to take him for 6 months. Like, you look at all the teams at the bottom end of the table. I think I mentioned Southampton, especially Everton. I think they'd take anybody at this point. I mean, they tried to sign Michy Batshuayi and he turned them down. So they would be desperate for any player in any position. Bournemouth, Wolves, West Ham. I think they all would have been open to taking Spence on loan, and maybe they did want a buy option. But you get to deadline day, someone's gonna cave and just take him on a straight 6 month loan. But I agree with the point you made a few minutes ago, Ricky. The football is football. And he's obviously 100% better off getting some game time at Stade Rennes than sitting on the bench at Tottenham. And as a few people pointed out to me on Twitter, the French football at the moment is very heavily kind of leaning towards wing-backs and attacking wing-backs. So he'll get game time in a system where we're hoping he'll be good for us going forward. If Conte's the manager next season, which obviously is looking increasingly unlikely, I'd worry about what kind of an opportunity Jed Spence will be given. But he's a prospect. He's someone that we spent a bit of money on. It would be outright foolish if we didn't at least give him a chance to return on that investment for us. But it's an important 6 months for him, and obviously I hope it goes very well.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. What we are going to do is we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio here. We've still got 1,000 of you watching us live, as Costa looks like we're actually going for an actual break. Look at him. He thinks he's just going to see the adverts. We are going to have to put up a little quick advert, and that is for our friends over at the Beavertown Corner Pin. They are bang opposite your south stand. We are going to get together soon in Beavertown again. We had a really good couple of shows in there. I mean, they've not been the greatest in terms of the results we've had, but we have enjoyed our time there. Home Win Away is back very, very soon for you. Crackers appearing a lot on this advert, where you're always going to find Crackers on one of these somewhere in the background lingering with John Wenham, one of our own as well now. We're hoping to get back down there for even more of the Home Win Aways coming your way. We're hoping we're actually going to have a live show to bring to you before the end of the season. We have to charter fly Matt over here somehow to get him in for that one, because we're looking forward to getting the band in, the Norwoods, the Heartmans, hopefully, fingers crossed, on Last Word on Spurs.
Rick, why don't you never take a breath, mate? I've never known anyone. I swear down, mate. You're in the wrong job, mate. I'm telling you, you need to be a rapper or something.
Horse racing commentating.
When you finally have enough of Spurs.
I tell you, when this club have buried me, we're going there, and you're coming with me. And Crackers, Matt, Jace, you're all coming with me.
Rick, you don't take a breath,
Ricky, the horse racing commentator. And it's Brian Hill's off to Valencia. Matt Doherty, Terminated. Still not been announced. What about Harry Kane? Son's out of form. Coming in for Harry Kane. It's going to be a photo finish between Matt Doherty, terminated contract, and across the line. It's Harry.
The show's falling apart, lads.
I'm just saying, we are 25 minutes away from the end of this window. We've got no Pedro Porro here, and it's turned into a horse racing show.
I couldn't care less. I'm chatting with my friends on YouTube. I don't care. I'm really not bothered.
You know what I love this? When we started this show, Ant's first words was, "Rick, I'm drained." We're 2 hours in and we've made no change or no growth of this move with Pedro Porro.
This club sends you mental, mate. This club sends you like
I must just say, shout out to Michael Bridge, massive friend of Last Word on Spurs. And I spoke to Bridgie this morning, bless him. And, can I just say, Michael Bridge has been at Hotspur Way. I think
he's got a water bottle now.
I saw that, yeah.
Bridgie's been there from about 5 a.m. He's been there since 5 a.m. this morning. Yeah. I hope Spurs have looked after him. Bridgie, I think we all say this. We're looking forward to having you back on Last Word on Spurs soon. We love you, mate. We're wishing you all the best out there. Oh, well.
I bet they haven't. I bet he's had to find a pound, or he's had to find a £5 note for the vending machine.
Yeah, do they? They've charged him for his tea, ain't they? They've definitely, he's definitely gone up to reception and gone, "Oh, it's really cold." And he charged her a cup of tea, and whoever's behind the counter's gone, "Yeah, there's a Max Packs machine over there. Don't take 50p pieces, by the way. Go and help yourself with one of those."
I promise you, Bridgie is coming back to us very, very soon on Last Word on Spurs. He's had a massive, massive shift this month, bless him. Look, as I said, we've got half an hour left of this. We've got less than half an hour of this deadline left. We expect Pedro Porro to be announced by Spurs in the near future.
Rick,
but we have
to announce him? Do we actually have to announce? Can he? Can he just sign? We don't have to announce it, do we? He can just.
He
sign.
signed already.
I mean, as far as we know, he has signed. I mean, I presume Spurs are in typical Spurs fashion, making us wait because in the nicest possible way, I just think they're going to think to themselves, this is going to massively appease the fans. If we get this out for 11 o'clock and that's the only thing we've done this deadline day, that's going to be enough. And I think, again, we've had this discussion on here. Is it enough?
Rick.
You can say, breathe.
I've written down stuff here tonight, right? I didn't want to tell you. There's one thing that you haven't said all night, and it's really bugged me, and I've had it down on my list of things that you say.
Yeah.
Constant of time, constant of time, constant of time, constant of time.
The one time when we actually have a countdown.
I've worked out why Porro's not announced.
Why?
Because you got 15% discount in the shop emails today, didn't you? And they're worried you'll use the 15% to buy a Porro shirt. So they'll make sure the 15% comes off before the Porro shirt becomes available. That's what it'll be. Let's not give it up 15% on a Porro shirt.
Hashtag Porro tomorrow. That's what it's going to be.
Tomorrow, yeah.
If you're telling me we've done nearly 3 hours for this to be announced tomorrow, I've got no words. Guys, look, we put this running order together tonight in the hope that Porro was going to be announced fairly early. We thought it was going to be an 8 p.m. announcement. Like I say, we're still here at nearly 20 to 11. Still no Pedro Porro, but we have got to talk about Bryan Gil and his future. Let's come to Matty first. So, Matt, Spurs have...
We can talk about.
All right, well, let's see if Matt agrees. Matt, we have sanctioned his loan. Now, I think many will just think this loan, they'll think it's maybe a complete waste of time. You know, we know what he can do in Spain. We know what he can do in Spain, Matt, because we saw it last season. Do we not need to know what he can do in English football, Matt?
I don't care.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Again, I said it when he went out on loan to Valencia last season. We're going to be in the same place in 12 months. You know, you want him to develop for English football. We all know how good he is in Spanish football. He was so good in Spanish football that we had to beat Barcelona and Real Madrid to make that signing. And look, Bryan Gil technically is a superb football player. I won't have anyone say anything different, but at the moment he's just not suited to the English game in any way whatsoever. He doesn't have the physicality. He doesn't have the experience of playing on the right-hand side. One of the best things about him when we brought him in from his time at Sevilla and Eibar was he was a typical old-fashioned left-footed winger on the left-hand side, just gets to the byline and puts the ball into the box. That's not the way Tottenham play. And he needs to become accustomed to the system where he's playing on the right-hand side and maybe a bit narrower, a bit more as a kind of central player like Decky does so well. I don't really know what way Sevilla play, but I do know that he was there for a year or two and he still has those limitations. So I do feel this decision was made on a personal basis. Like we had those quotes from his agent in Relevo, I think it is the Spanish outlet. There's clearly something more going on there. But from a footballing perspective, I don't see how anything is going to change between now and a summer window on what Bryan Gil can do or offer this team. And I worry it's he probably just will be going permanently in the next 6, 12, 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, Kratz, come over to you. Look, you've massively championed him from day one since he's been here. But it is mad when you think that, of course, we signed Bryan Gil from Seville 18 months later and are set to end up with 21 million, Eric Lamela and Bryan Gil. I mean, it's just absolutely baffling, the situation that we find ourselves in here. I mean, will this guy, in your opinion, genuinely get a run of games in a Spurs shirt at some point? Or, like you said earlier, you wouldn't be surprised if this, again, is potentially the end of his Tottenham career, if, of course, Conte is still the manager on the first day of next season.
Yeah, I fear that's the case, and I fear that we're going to miss out on a player that will come good. He hasn't let us down when he's come on. He's been a pest. He's been a decent pest as well in games, and he set up the third goal for Dan Juma. That third goal, he started that move against Palace. He was instrumental in that game. And, Tottenham fans, like many fans of other clubs, if you don't do it straight from the off, they're on your back. But you see overwhelmingly positive comments about him saying, yeah, okay, he looks decent. There looks like there's something about him. He's got a little something. What he lacks in physicality, he has got in being able to pick a pass out and just offer something a little bit different to what we've got. Modric was very, very small. It's tiny almost, but he strengthened parts of his body, legs, and that. As you know, he was very difficult to knock off the ball. So I'm just hoping he goes away, gets on the weights, develops, comes back, and finds a place in Tottenham. But you know, as Jason said as well earlier, just would not be surprised if it doesn't happen. Also, you know, it's just one of those mad signings. Some hit, some miss. So I don't know. All I know is it only cost me about 20 quid to fly to Seville and back, and it's lovely and warm, and I can go and watch him play. Thanks for coming.
Oh, Matt,
Oh, thanks for Ryanair.
where do you go from there? Yeah, I'll tell you. He won't let one drop there tonight. Matt, coming out of you. Look, Brian Hill, at one point during this window, we heard, you know, adamantly he wasn't going to leave the club. So what has changed, Matt, in between, 10, 11 days, which has now seen him leave the football club? Apart from Danjuma, of course, you might add. Obviously, he's a rival.
Oh, well, my answer was going to be Danjuma. I think
the only reason I say that is that numerically, though, we are still at a loss because Mora has not kicked the ball this season, apart from the under-21.
I don't know what's wrong with Jason. Do we not like Lucas? No,
Jason, we'll go to Matt, then we'll go to Jace. Go on, Matt. We'll go to Matt, then we'll go to Jace.
Yeah, like the line we've heard kind of for the last 12 or so months, you know, Antonio Conte likes to have a reasonably small squad that he can trust and depend on. And for so long for Tottenham, it's been we need to sell to buy for financial reasons. But now it's been sell to buy simply for numbers. So I think one in, one out is just the way we're going in this window. Aside from obviously the two right backs going out, unless there's something up Levy's sleeve, which there isn't. So yeah, it's probably just on a technicality, get one in, get one out, and again the personal things for Brian Hill. He just doesn't seem happy in England. So maybe that's what made us change our mind and go and try and get that Danjuma deal done as well.
I can see you were biting there, Jace, to come in. So what was your thoughts on that with regards to Brian Hill?
I just mean when you say we're numerically down, we're not, because we've got one player we can use as opposed to one player not fit to use and one player we don't want to use. So we're one player up for me numerically. And don't forget, you're only allowed 17 overseas players. And if we'd have kept Gill, then you can't put Danjuma in. So, or you've got to get rid of somebody else. So it's we're up to 17 foreign players. It's pointless having 19 foreign players if you can only register 17.
Yeah. No, I must just say, and as we're saying this right now, just for Fabrizio Romano saying, I know it was a mad saga with many twists, but nothing to worry about. Pedro Porro is a Tottenham player. So, look, I mean, God, if we can't say that as gospel, then we all might as well go home. I tell you, we're waiting so long.
So he's doing our announcements now, Rick, is he? We've actually, we are through the looking glass now. It's Romano's now actually announcing.
I'm not even going to let Jason do it. I'm not even going to let Jason do this.
Last January was...
mate,
I'll get him to buy in a minute.
My Biffa bin talks more sense sometimes.
Matty,
I was going to say, last January, Juventus announced our deals. Remember Bentancur and Kulusevski? They put out statements saying, "Oh yeah, we've sold these lads to Tottenham." Well, Tottenham are still trying to decide what venue.
One thing I'll guarantee you is I guarantee you'll probably get the Sporting announcement before Tottenham's, and we're now, like I say, only 10 to 11. I just can't quite believe that we're in this situation. But hey,
and they announced Bellerin 40 minutes ago. They have their replacement. They've that done.
Yeah. One player we do know definitely has left the club as well today is, only on loan, is Harvey White.
Perhaps we're trying to sign Burnley's video editor or something.
Oh, but
John, they're really good. The deal of the window.
John, if it is, that's really good. You could argue if we are doing that. I mean, it'll be a bloody good announcement because they are absolutely superb. Harvey White leaving the club today. John, Matt will stick with you on this one. He has joined Derby on loan for the rest of the season. Look, again, young player, probably needs game time. But to be fair to me, he has been in and around at least Conte's squads to some degree this season. And obviously he's been featured prominently in training. So maybe one to keep an eye on for next season, Matt, and probably maybe the standout of the preseason for Tottenham at some points.
Yeah. There's not many young players that have had, I suppose, a relatively consistent kind of appearance in those Tottenham squads. But Harvey White is one of those. He's been a revelation in every preseason tour we've had for the last 3 or 4 years. Did very well on loan at Portsmouth the season before last, or the end of last season, whatever it was. Hermana just tweeted again, 5 or 10 minutes admin up to you, Spurs official. But yeah, Harvey White, he'll get game time. Derby are a bit of an unknown entity really in what they've been coming out and doing at times in the League One this season. But yeah, just good for him to get first team football. And there was a point made on Sky Sports earlier today, and I forget who it was. I think it might have been Tony Pulis, but he made the point with regards to young players going out on loan that the extra pressure. I think it was actually when Pulis was talking about Spence, who he worked with at Porro. But the extra pressure for a young player going playing for a first team is so different because it's the first time when, the way he put it was, you're playing for a manager whose job depends on results. It's like when you're playing in the academy, you don't often see managers get sacked for results. It's mainly based on the development of players, but that extra pressure and that extra kind of weight in the shoulders of playing for a manager, a team fighting for promotion and a manager fighting for his job, I think will only do him good.
Absolutely. Right, guys, we are going to turn on. I can't ask Anthony, listen, I cannot ask Anthony Costa about Harvey White because he might explode at me right now. And I feel like I can't ask Ant about the Academy son that we've had today because he equally might explode at me. So I don't actually know where to go with Ant on what we're going to ask him. But Ant, I must ask you, look, you are always, tell it as it is. Are you not surprised, Ant, that we are 2.5 hours into this show? It is 10 to 11 and this announcement is still not here.
What's your favourite quality street, Anne? There's a question.
I like the purple one. I like the purple one.
Yeah, see, the purple one.
Quality street are awful.
Let's just go this last. We might as well just finish this last 10 minutes with what's your favourite quality street. We can all go. We can all go to bed.
Okay, right. Can I just say we have had
time.
It's time. Can I say, guys, we have had the announcement from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. It is here right now. Pedro Porro is a Tottenham Hotspur player, and to be fair to him, I can't obviously share this with you on the screen for copyright reasons. But look, go and have a look on Spurs official right now. Spurs are just currently photoshopping Pedro Porro's face as we record right now. But he is a Tottenham Hotspur player. Pedro Podro. Even I can't believe I'm saying.
There you go, Rick. We've been doing this too long.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell he is a Tottenham Hotspur player. We're going to get confirmation of the contract. We understand it will be to 2028. It will be a 5-year contract from Spurs. And like I say, we're just waiting for that to come through right now. And as all of us here, this is the problem with social media. We are all now glued to our phones looking at what the hell is going on. But Spurs have got their man, Pedro Porro, as we enter the early hours nearly of the deadline here with 10 minutes to go. He is a Tottenham Hotspur player. Cracks, right way to end it?
I've just watched the video and they've got him dressed up as Zorro, but like with the instead of the Z across the screen, they've done a P. Honestly,
that is eggy.
No. But no, we should have signed Pedro Podro. That's what I'm saying. that's who we've missed out on this window. So it's done, isn't it? It's like we can all go to bed now. So what's Pedro Porro's favourite quality street, Rick? This is this is what the people want to know.
He definitely likes the toffee coin.
Maybe the toffee coin,
yeah.
He's insane. Then he's never making it at Spurs if you like that toffee coin. Honestly, but knowing Spurs' luck, that's his favourite quality street. He'll bite into one, pull a filling out, and be out for 2 months with the medical department trying to redo his dentures or something. We're cursed, didn't we, Anne? And that's what had happened. First toffee.
Something I am keen to ask, and this is unrelated very quickly. I have got to ask it. Jason, want to come around here and ask you? I'm not going to ask you to comment on the signing of the academy player because we don't know anything about him, but is it more promising that the fact you've seen now with Chelsea and Spurs that relations do seem to have improved in the last few weeks? We've had Beth England join Spurs for record 3. I think John said Andrei Shevchenko's son had a trial at Tottenham. Spurs have announced the signing of the young 19-year-old forward Jude Sunsut-Bell. Do you think relations are going to improve, Jace, under this new hierarchy with Tottenham?
We'll see. There may well be a change in direction, but maybe then you could have gone and got Hakim Ziyech today rather than somebody else or whatever. We'll see. When we sign Reece James, I know that it's changed between Tottenham and Chelsea. That's for sure.
I agree. I think it's one of those things where we'll have to wait and see. But we also know Spurs are scouting at the moment 17-year-old Joe Bellingham, the younger brother of Jude Bellingham. I mean, if he's anything like his brother, then please God, hopefully we're going to be in for an absolute treat. Guys, I think the right way we should end this show is just to think about season expectations and what we are now looking at as the targets for the rest of the season. And let me come to you. Look, we are currently 3 points off that current top four. Spurs, we'd actually haven't covered it on the show. They've actually got, you'd argue, maybe say a favourable FA Cup draw, although no away game is easy. It'll be Wrexham or it'll be Sheffield United. And of course, we've got the double header to come against AC Milan in the Champions League. What do you deem, Ant, for you now? What is success this season in your eyes?
I want an FA Cup. FA Cup. I just want an FA Cup. I'm not. I want to see us, be as high up in the table as possible. Great, but I'm fed up of that now, to be honest with you, lads. I said it before we started talking. I want a trophy. I want to see Lloris holding an FA Cup at Wembley. That, to me, means more than anything else.
Let's get your thoughts on that, Jace, for you. Look, I mean, and I've got to be honest with you. I mean, it's at a point where, for me, look, the top four is important, but if we're not going to buy the necessary players in order to push on and to grow and develop, is that worth it with top four if we're going to have that and not get the trophies? Arsenal were bantered for years of being a top four club, but they're never really sustaining any cup runs. And then we're in a situation with Tottenham where we just want to win one at the moment. We're desperate to win a trophy. Desperate, aren't we? I mean, what do you think for you, Jace? What is for you the priority targets now going into the second half of the season with this business now being done? Porro announced, Danjuma in. What for you is now the priorities?
I probably would now say the cup. I've always said in the belief that going for the top four should enable you to get squads together where you eventually become a multiple trophy winner. But as we're seeing, we're not seeing necessarily the real benefits, the real game changer benefits. And I think particularly with probably that lot may well be winning the league, it's even more important reason for us to win a trophy, to read the Harry Kane has to leave to win a trophy and things like that. But that for my personal choice. But I don't think we get past Sheffield United. I'm afraid to say. I just look at it. I look at that week.
That'll be a roar. That'll be uproar.
I look at that week and I tell you, we have Chelsea on the Sunday. We have Wolves on the Saturday afternoon. It's Sheffield. It's probably going to be Sheffield United on a midweek on the Wednesday night. Sheffield United are second in the Championship. They will be right up for that Tottenham game, far more than Preston were. And I think Tottenham will look at it and think Chelsea, Wolves, AC Milan on the Tuesday night. We can rotate. We're going to need to rotate. And I think they'll do all the rotation in that Sheffield United game. And I tell you what, Sheffield United, if you rotate, is where you get a bloody nose. We found out to our cost at Middlesbrough last year, we didn't even really rotate at Middlesbrough. But I think if we get Sheffield United, we are in serious trouble. And that's going to be a real shame. Because I just think Tottenham will go in it, and that's where you'll see Sanchez, Japhet Tanganga, Oliver Skip, and people like that. And I'm afraid that at Sheffield United could well get you dumped.
You know what? Let me come around to you, Cracks, and ask you. Look, you do so many of these shows with me, bless you, and likewise the boys as well. And we sit here every week and we just say how important we want to see the club progress, do well, win that trophy, get over the line. Cracks, for you, what is now for you the most important targets of this season, in your opinion?
Exactly what and Jason have said, the FA Cup, not for any reason where we get beat with his stick of like, oh, you should know what a trophy and all that. Just that winning trophies breeds a winning mentality, and I think it just gives the whole club a lift. But I fear Jason is also right when he says that what they'll do is they'll look at it and they'll see progressing through to another round of the Champions League as a bigger achievement than winning an FA Cup, because it just brings more money in, and it's just balance sheets over honours lists, and that's the problem. But having said that, even with a rotated squad, if you've got a good enough squad, a team and a club like Tottenham should be able to go to Sheffield United away and progress. those bench warmers, those rotators, if you like, in a squad. You don't really have bench warmers anymore, do you? I shouldn't really call them that. It's a squad. That squad should be deep enough to be able to go to Sheffield United away. Let's not forget Wrexham scored 3 against them, you know, so that they are gettable. I mean, but Jason is also right. If you go there and you ain't on your mettle, you are going to get a kick up the arse. So, and that I'd love to see us win an FA Cup, but why can't we not win an FA Cup and get top 4? That's what should be achievable for a club of Tottenham's size. For the end of the season, we're a club in a position that now should be pushing for the title.
Of course we should.
That's where we should be. The aim for the season should be to win every game that's put in front of us. That should be the aim. Whether you do or not, that's in the lap of the gods sometimes and a bit of luck. But I really would love us to see us win the FA Cup this season. And if you put the gun to my head and said top 4 FA Cup, I said in the last shows, and I've always said I'll take a cup every time. I will take a cup. No one's parading a check, a fat check down the high road and coming out onto the steps of the town hall for it. So FA Cup for me. If we win that, then that feels like something's been achieved this season.
You know what, mate? You've heard a lot of different opinions. Well, I say a lot of different opinions. But one common theme there is the guys feel the cup is so important this season. I mean, Jason says for him there, that cup draw isn't going to be easy. You know, we've seen 11 Premier League sides go out of that FA Cup, but arguably Spurs won't get a better chance. You have to say that. We, of course, acknowledge that City, of course, are still in there and it won't be easy. But, I mean, again, with United there as well, I know, Jason, you always say you're going to probably have to beat one of those teams along the way if you are going to win it. So, Matt, in your opinion, before we maybe come on to that very quickly to close the show, Matt, what's the target for you this season? What needs to happen to keep the players happy, to keep the manager happy, to keep the fans happy?
We've got to win the trophy. We've got to do it. Top 4 is extremely important, and I think, like Anthony said, I want to finish high up the table, but I also want a trophy. Jose Mourinho and his time at the club was never going to be any sort of a platform or any sort of something that put us in the right direction unless he won a trophy. And I think Antonio Conte is the very same, in that when he inevitably leaves this club, whether it's 6 months down the line, 12, 18 months, whatever it is, I don't think there's going to be any sort of a shell of a squad or anything that another manager can come in and work with straight away. I think whatever Antonio Conte leaves behind, there will be a lot of work to do in it. And it's not necessarily his fault. He comes in, he wins, he goes. Fantastic. If that's what he does at Tottenham, I'll be absolutely delighted. So if he doesn't win a trophy at Tottenham, for me, we're really, really looking towards his time at the club being a failure. So let's just play full strength. If it's Sheffield United, if it's Wrexham, if it's my local under-9s team, whatever it is, just go full strength. We can't afford another season of losing to Colchester, of losing to Middlesbrough, of losing to Leeds, losing to Forest, whatever it is. We just can't do it. You know, we're too big a club to go this long without a trophy. 15 years is going to be. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, 15 years without winning a trophy. It's unheard of. It is absolutely ridiculous.
And Gary Lineker, sorry.
We need trophies.
I'm saying, Matty, and the last time we won an FA Cup, Gary Lineker and Paul Gascoigne were playing.
Yeah.
That's
9
mad,
years before I was even born.
It's unthinkable. Yeah, it's unthinkable. Is that very quickly, Matt? Would that be enough? Do you think if Spurs were to win an FA Cup, hypothetically, this is what you guys are all asking, so I have to ask this question: does that keep the players like the Kanes, the Romeros at the club, the Sons? What do you think, Matt, on that?
I think it keeps Kane at the club, because look, all we're ever hearing about Kane is that he wants to be successful at Spurs, and I think getting into the top 4 and not winning a trophy is the same as what he's had for half of his seasons at Tottenham. So I don't think that shows much progress. But actually being able to get over the line, not lose a semi-final, and then not lose the final will show progress, and it will show that Conte is capable of achieving something good at this football club. As for Son and Romero, I think Romero was a different ballgame altogether, because Son and Kane have the adoration for the football club. They've been here for the entirety of their careers. It's so much more to them than just an employer. It is something they genuinely love. For Romero, I think even if we win the Premier League this season, obviously not going to happen. But if we go on and win a Premier League, but Romero gets an offer from a Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or Juventus, a team who can offer him a lot of money and offer him consistent trophies, I think Romero's going to take that offer. And I'd probably say the same about a Bentancur and a Kulusevski, because they don't have that feeling for the club. But I think winning a trophy will increase the positivity about where this club is going within that squad.
Yeah, I'm going to close that with an Ant, Jason, and go to Cracks. I'm going to close it. Ant, for you, if it is the FA Cup, how confident are you that's enough to keep a number of those high-profile players happy and the manager happy? Ant?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great, but with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, players come and go. You know, I can't be, as I said to you tonight, lads, I don't want to be drained anymore. You know, I want to enjoy the football. I want to enjoy a cup run, an FA Cup final, a League Cup final, a Champions League semi-final. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to be worrying about, oh well, if we don't win, then he's going to go. And he's going. If they go, they go. That's life. That's what happens. Would I want them to go? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But if they do, you know, we carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the brutal oversight of what I'm thinking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ask me tomorrow, I'll be a different person probably. But
yeah, as
I'm talking to you now, I think I've really thought about the show tonight, and we've had a laugh and a giggle. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, that's been great.
I think Tottenham Hotspur is part of our lives. I don't want it to overtake my life. Do you see what I mean? And Crackers always says to me, and you've got your family, you've got your kids, you've got your friends, you've got your loved ones, etc. Don't let it take up too much of your time. And I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want it to, Rick. It will.
We speak every day. I mean, Tottenham always is the dominant of the conversation. It does, you know, for doing Last Word On Spurs and for what these guys do as well, it does consume our lives. You know, you can't help but think about it. You wake up thinking of Tottenham, you go to bed thinking of Tottenham. Listen, we've all got family, but it's just the way it is with a football club.
You are absolutely spot on, but is it enough to keep Kane and Son? I'd like to think so, because that will be able to be a nice thing to kick on. If we win an FA Cup and they say ta-da, okay, thank you very much, lads. We love you, and let's move on.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Jace? I mean, then we're going to finish with Cracks. We've seen in the past that actually winning a trophy doesn't actually mean you keep those players. If anything, we've seen in the past where we've won a trophy and the squad's actually dissembled. So, I mean, with that being the case, is the trophy the be-all and end-all, or do you think it's just a case that we are now at a period where, as Matt said, 15 years without one, we're so desperate to win something, win anything, that, quite frankly, we're willing to take that risk and take that hit and to hell with the consequences to some degree, Jace?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you say, you know, Keane and Beavertown left as soon as we won a trophy because they weren't getting Champions League football. So it can work both. I mean, some of those players, you know, Sonny may well say, and I think Hugo will go in the summer anyway, but Sonny may well say, well, you know, it's now job done. We aren't going to win the league. So the job was to win a trophy. We've done the trophy. Now it's time to move on to something else. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens whatsoever. But, you know, if they do move on, as you say, I think Kane will be at Tottenham next season. There's a number of reasons I think he'll be there next season. I'm not in the least bit fussed about losing Kane in the summer, because I genuinely believe he'll be at Tottenham next season. I don't believe Man United really want him, and I think then he's got a problem if he wants to stay in the Premier League of just where will he go? Where will he go if the option's not to Man United? So, you know, I think Kane will be there next season, and I'm not particularly fussed if any of the others aren't, to be honest. If they're not, they're not, and you do your rebuild and you start going again.
I mean, it's fair to say, look, Jason, there's no ageism, but you've seen a lot of great players come and go, but the football club is always the constant, right? That's the one thing.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure Cracks will agree on that no matter who's here, and he's interviewed some wonderful legends, which he does and does it so well that whoever comes and goes, the football club is here. As Cracks says, the fans are always here.
And then and don't forget, if players leave in the summer, that's great, because Winksy comes back. So Ant's going to be happy.
Cracks, let's come to you. I mean, asking you that question, maybe to close it there. What is it, the be all and end all, the cup? And if it is a cup, how does that affect the dressing room? How does that affect things moving forward? Please God, that we're even in that position to think about that.
One of the constants of when I speak to these players on the Q&A nights and Legends nights is just the feeling that they got from winning that first cup and made them want to go again and make them want to taste that again and do that. And maybe the modern player, that feeling of winning a cup has been replaced of just playing in the Champions League. It's almost like an honour to them that they've done that rather than a cup. So I don't know. It's I think it just drives you on. I think that's what. Is that not what kids get into football for? To win stuff, that's what gets you into football as a kid. That going and winning the cup with your like Sunday league side and that. So it is important. It's important to us fans. I know the clubs see it very differently. It's all about the balance sheets, but that's what I want to see. And I do also want to see Tottenham be more proactive than reactive all the time, because don't forget, Kane and Son are now reaching certain ages. They are going to be going at some stage in the near future, not years away. It's not that long away. Another 3 seasons or so, and they're both phoning me up asking me if I've got any nights to do. It's that's where they're getting to in their career. So that's something that is going to need addressing in these transfer windows coming up. So can't, we're going to have to replace them two at some stage, along with others, along with Lloris. There's always this churn of players going or getting to an age. So get in front of the curve, get ahead of the curve, get those players in that are going to step through the ranks and maybe play under them in the squad to be able to come straight in. And when they step in, you then look at the next one to come along. It's a conveyor belt all the time. And Spurs just need a couple of windows where they get ahead of the curve. And we have not just the 1 or 2 players that come in that are quality, by the way. I must stress that. That is a couple of quality signings we've got there. But get ahead of the curve and be ready. Be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah, it only feels right to ask this question to close it to all of you. Matt, Pedro Porro, debut against Man City weekend. What do you reckon, Matt?
100%.
No doubts.
Yeah, no doubts.
And same as you expect to see him in that shirt starting again?
It's got to be. I'm not having. He needs 2 months to settle in. I'm not having it, mate. Not interested. You start on Sunday, mate. Sorry.
Jace, any reservations in your mind, or straight into that 11, hell-bent, whatever happens for the weekend? Massive game for the club.
I think he has to be, and as Matt made the point, I think if that team sheet comes out Sunday and Emerson Royal's on it, can you imagine what that atmosphere is going to be like? It just sucks all the joy out of the crowd before you even start. So, I mean, if he's hasn't trained this week or whatever because of the move, then you put him on, and with 5 substitutes, you can take him off at 65 minutes or something. But I think he should be fit to play 90 minutes, and I think he has to play. He really does. Danjuma's different, but Porro has to play.
Yeah. Cracks for you. Any doubts in your mind? Porro surely has to start against City, doesn't he? The lift that will give the crowd to see him in that starting lineup.
If I've gone out and bought myself a nice pair of sky blue Farrahs today and a pair of slip-on shoes, you can be sure I'm wearing them to the disco this coming Saturday night. They're not sitting in the wardrobe, Rick.
Can we start taking bets on Lucas Moura starting right wing back? Because that would just be the most Tottenham thing that you could possibly imagine.
Could you imagine? I'm not.
Goodness, is at the time.
for all of our sakes, I must say, there's been over 2,500 of you that have watched this show tonight, which has been a marathonly of 3 hours. Can I just take this opportunity to thank a wonderful audience, but also thank the wonderful Lee McQueen, who he lost, unfortunately, halfway through due to tech issues. Matt, thank you, mate, for all your amazing work during this transfer window with me, mate. It's been a pleasure. We've got you back on for a number of shows coming up. Matt, thank you so much, bud.
Ricky, absolute pleasure and an honour. Thank you as always.
Mate, thank you so much. Cracks, you are back with me at the weekend, mate. Thank you as always. Diamond throughout this tough period. Cracks, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick. I'm calling myself.
You're calling me
I'm even
crackers,
speaking to
I am
myself
crackers.
now. Yeah. Thanks, Cracks. Listen, this show's gone on longer tonight. You've hosted this show longer tonight than the Porro negotiations. Well done.
You
'Cause
reckon?
You've put some. You talk about Bridgie. You've put some collar in. Don't worry about
Oh,
that. Hardest
you tried
working man in
driving
show
it.
business.
Bless you. Well, look, I always say the show
Apart
is
from
the show.
Ant.
Yeah, apart from that, the show is made. I'd say the show is made by the time from the contributors that they give up. So without the likes of Matty, Crackers, and Jace, there would be no show. And I'm gonna have to reflect that back for all the praise I get. Without these wonderful people, this show wouldn't happen. So listen, please, as much.
When am I next on?
We've got March come up, man. I'll be messaging you.
Oh yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah. You'll be messaging that. And mate,
I've just had a look through the diary, Rick, and you're next on 11 p.m. start. Right after we've played Dynamo Cheeky Girl away in the Conference League next season. You and I get all those belting shows, don't we? Leggy your trousers. Ricky comes on. It's a 2 a.m. start for the show. Just as we finish, the final whistle goes versus leggy your trousers, Dynamo Cheeky Girl in the Conference League. The graveyard shift we've got.
I love you, lads. I love you.
Honestly. And thank you so much for your time tonight,
Love
mate.
you,
Really
mate.
appreciate it. Love you too, mate. We're having you back on soon. And Jace, you are also back on. He doesn't know it yet. He's back on throughout March and April, seeing us to the end, as well as Ant.
As long as two of your famous guests aren't ever coming back on while I'm on.
We're not going to be discussing who they are. But listen, from all of us here, from the wonderful Matty Hayes, from the superb Richard Cracknell, from the brilliant Andy Costa, from the, as ever, always, Jason McGovern, so diplomatic. Guys, keep safe, keep well. We're back with you soon. Pedro Porro is a Tottenham player. And as always, come on, you